2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to The Good Shepherd.
Yeah, you are listening to The Good Shepherd. It is great to be with you, however and wherever you may be listening from. You could be in the car, you could be in the truck, you could be at work, you could be getting us on SiriusXM channel 375. You can be checking us out for free on the Odyssey app. However you get us each and every Saturday morning here on the Infinity Sports Network, it is always a privilege to have you aboard. Usually, I would start with the NBA playoffs. Sorry, Glenn. That takes precedent over NHL playoffs right now. But we have not just a fall from grace, and it's not his fault, but we have the ultimate plummet in terms of NFL draft history. I can't recall an individual that came into an NFL draft and has slid to the degree and severity of Shedeur Sanders over the past 2 days. Now, I want to get your thoughts on that. I want to get your insight on that. I want to get your opinion on that. And so when you talk about like what's going on in terms of Shedeur Sanders, it's a tricky situation because he happens to be the son and quarterback at the same time of one of the greatest hype machines in the history of sports, in Deion Sanders. It's that simple. But he backed it up. You could not throw to one side of the field in the 15 plus years of Deion Sanders' NFL career. You just couldn't. So he did the most talking we've ever seen, from especially on the defensive side of the ball. But he always backed it up. Shedeur Sanders, there's limitations there. Yes, he was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. We all get that. One of the best quarterbacks in college football in 2024. But there's a lot more holes in his game than Deion Sanders' game. He was 0-2 against ranked opponents. And it wasn't just, elite ranked opponents. It was like middle of the road, top 20, top 23 teams in BYU and, of course, Kansas State. You look at those games, he had negative 88 rushing yards. And so obviously what that tells me and tells you as an educated audience is that he's not good at being able to escape the rush. He's not good at being able to extend plays. That's something you need to have as an NFL quarterback. He doesn't have that as part of his repertoire yet. He had 5 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. He was 0-2. So while he was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, and while he was historically great when it came to accuracy, he was not someone that had the quote-unquote skills that would translate to the NFL. But with all that being said, you look at his accuracy, you look at the arm strength, you look at the ability for him to handle himself off the field with the celebrity that comes with being Shedeur Sanders. That is all NFL caliber. And there was a legitimate time where for months, and I'm not saying it was in his favor, but there was a conversation where it was Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. So that, to me, is what's really, really interesting about this particular scenario. We were talking about Shedeur Sanders potentially being a top 10 pick. A lot of people felt like the Giants were actually going to go that way with their top pick. We are now discussing Shedeur Sanders not just missing out on the first round, but the second and third. This is not just a fall. This is a plummet. And so I got to stand up for Shedeur a little bit here too. Because in 4 years in college football, he had 7 different offensive coordinators. 7. And still, when it was all said and done, when it came to his final year in college football, he was top 10 in Heisman Trophy voting. He led the Big 12 in passing yards, passing touchdowns, obviously passing completions, passing completion percentage. He led it in everything. And I understand they're not the SEC, but it's a pretty damn good conference. So I was surprised when he did, in fact, slide out of the first round. And I was surprised that, there were 2 quarterbacks chosen and one of them was not Shedeur Sanders. I had a good feeling that Cam Ward was going number 1 overall. We knew that. That was the worst kept secret for the past month, going to the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, Will Levis not being the guy there for the last 2 years. He had his opportunity. He wasn't able to really take the reins of that franchise. But I did not think Jackson Dart was going to get selected over Shedeur Sanders. And this is the other troubling thing I'll say. You talk about the needs of quarterbacks, right? The needs of organizations, more specifically. The Saints, you don't know what the heck is going to happen with Derek Carr. Steelers, what is your best option right now? Potentially a soon-to-be 42-year-old quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. That's the best you got. And what's the best option you had if you are the New York Giants? You have essentially a 1-year rental in Russell Wilson as the starting quarterback. So for me, I don't love that teams factor too much of Shedeur's celebrity, because I know everyone has an opinion on why he was drafted so low. I outlined what many NFL scouts believe is going to be something he needs to drastically improve. Again, processing at the line of scrimmage, being able to extend plays, being able to avoid the sack and be evasive. He's not able to do that at this point of his career. What he does have is a really strong arm. What he does have is incredible accuracy, and he's got resilience. He knows what it's like to already be in the spotlight because he is not just Deion Sanders' son, but he's Shedeur Sanders. He's got his own personality. He has his own mantra. He's got his own swag. You talk about NIL. You talk about endorsements. Nobody was more of a beneficiary of that in college football than Shedeur Sanders. And yes, I understand Arch Manning has been playing for Texas the last 2 years. You'd like to see him actually get more playing time in his junior year. You have a good feeling that's going to happen. I guarantee you Arch Manning ain't going to have a slide like this, like we saw from Shedeur Sanders. But the other thing you keep hearing is that the celebrity outweighs the talent. The notoriety and the platform of Shedeur Sanders outweighs productivity. That's what you keep hearing. And that's unfair. That's unfair because he's Deion Sanders' son. And I remember a time when in the NBA, you had LeVar Ball running his mouth every single opportunity he got. Every opportunity he got. And let me tell you something. Deion Sanders athletically has accomplished a lot more than LeVar Ball ever has. And you talk about that famous draft class, right? Back in 2017, you had Jason Tatum. You had Donovan Mitchell. You had some really special players, soon to be first ballot Hall of Famers. LeVar Ball, De'Aaron Fox was part of that draft class. LeVar Ball was drafted ahead of all those guys. Now, was he better? No, he wasn't better than any of them. He had the hype machine that was LeVar Ball, so he was drafted number 2 overall. I don't see Deion Sanders saying anything more than LeVar Ball said back in 2017. Now, I will say I thought it was a little bit unfair when Deion Sanders came out and made a bold proclamation that no two players would have a bigger impact. No two players would have a bigger impact on this coming NFL season than Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. I thought that was a little bit too much pressure on both of those guys, especially Shedeur. But he's got a right to his opinion too. I don't think that should have been such a huge factor in why Shedeur dropped as significantly as he did. And again, there was some speculation that the Steelers were going to be the right franchise for Shedeur. And then what do? They go in a completely different direction and they draft the Ducks defensive tackle, Derek Harmon. And then you think potentially, the New York Giants, they didn't want to draft him, come around, early on, but they did trade up to get a quarterback. Okay, maybe this is the pick that they make, and then they go with Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss. So Shedeur, he's going to have a huge, ginormous chip on his shoulder. Maybe, in fact, this is what it takes to get Deion from Colorado to the NFL coaching ranks. He spoke after the NFL draft about what it means to pass on Shedeur Sanders, which all 32 teams did at first, and then again. Let's hear from Shedeur.
God don't make mistakes. We got faith in God no matter what. Whatever it is, bro, we're not worried about nothing.
So, short and sweet. Now, Sean Payton, there are people like Sean Payton that are going to say, look, I got myself Bo Nix. I don't need to draft Shedeur Sanders, but I am a Super Bowl winning, head coach. I am someone that understands how to get the most out of quarterbacks. Hi, Drew Brees. I know that Shedeur Sanders slipping is not because of Shedeur. Let's take a listen to Sean Payton.
This thing is it's surprising. It's like there'll be this chip on his shoulder, and beware, because this guy's going to play in this league.
Well, we all know that. We all know he's going to play in this league, Sean. You're not breaking any ground there. But we all know he should have been picked in the first round. There's no question in my mind he did enough as a college football quarterback. He had one of the most excellent seasons in college football for any player, let alone a quarterback. And then you're, looking at guys like Tyler Shuck, then, Alabama's Jalen Milroe, Oregon's Dylan Gabriel. I know there was a famous meme going around of Dylan Gabriel being picked before Shedeur Sanders, and you're thinking to yourself, well, he did win a lot of games. You get that. But Jalen Milroe, man, he came apart by the wayside for Alabama. You're thinking Tyler Shuck, like. By the way, Stephanie Schlagle, great to have you back. I want to always make sure I get your name right. That's correct?
Schlegel, close enough.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Stephanie Schlegel, I apologize. Stephanie, let me ask you this question. Honestly, do you know who Tyler Shuck is?
I have no idea.
Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. I've seen him like once. I never looked at him and said he's going to have a better NFL career than Shedeur Sanders. What it comes down to is this. The celebrity and the platform, fair or unfair, outweighs the production, the perceived production in general managers' eyes. When you look at Shedeur Sanders, are you as in much shock as I am with him not just falling in this draft, but plummeting where he's not even picked in the first 3 rounds, for God's sakes?
No, I'm not surprised, to be honest.
Fair enough. Why is that?
I mean, I never saw him as a top pick in the first place. So I feel like this is accurate. Wow. And I mean, he'll be picked tomorrow, but I don't know. This feels right to me.
Oh, geez. Well, Shedeur Sanders, I hope someone, now I don't think he's listening right now. He's probably in bed sleeping, sleeping this off. But there's someone listening right now that is close with Shedeur that's going to relay that little clip you just mentioned, Stephanie, about what's going on with Shedeur Sanders. Look, to your point, we know there's a lack of mobility. We know there are flaws. But with all that being said, if you are a franchise, like for example, Denver, they have their quarterback for the foreseeable future, probably the next decade plus. And so you get Sean Payton not drafting Shedeur Sanders, even as a backup, because you don't want to create that, competition. You want to make sure Bo Nix feels safe, feels valued, feels honored. You don't want to have a second-year quarterback looking behind his shoulder, thinking, hey, there may be someone even with more talent who's a rookie. That's not fair to me. I just basically brought you to playoffs as a rookie. So I get Sean Payton not picking him. But when you're the Cleveland freaking Browns, and the only thing you have to show in the last 30 years is one postseason victory, and that one postseason victory came with a quarterback that you felt like you could eventually upgrade from in Baker Mayfield, and you go with Deshaun Watson, who basically forgot how to be elite as a quarterback, and you're thinking to yourself, maybe I should not pick him once, twice, 3, 4 times. They passed on Shedeur Sanders 4 times. And I understand they didn't draft, his buddy Travis Hunter. A lot of people felt like he was going to go to the Browns and ended up going to Jacksonville, trading up. Good for them. But this is deplorable, in my opinion, that Shedeur Sanders has fallen and plummeted as much as he has. There is no excuse for it other than you don't want the extra attention that comes with acquiring a Shedeur Sanders-like quarterback. Every quarterback has flaws. Every quarterback has flaws. Trevor Lawrence was can't miss. He was can't miss. We're legitimately evaluating his future as an NFL quarterback. I don't even know if he's playing in 5-10 years from now. I don't. And he was the ultimate can't miss guy coming out of Clemson. So, like I said, every single quarterback has holes. And again, the ability to extend plays is always going to be a question mark when it comes to Shedeur Sanders against the ranked opponents this year. And they weren't even elite to ranked opponents. He had negative 88 rushing yards, which tells me there is delay in terms of processing, and there is also not a great football mind when it comes to audibles from Shedeur at this point of his career. But the talent's there. The arm strength is there. The athleticism is there. So I don't understand for the life of me how in the world he dropped, not just dropped, but again, plummeted. Because it wasn't too long ago when we were debating Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. I thought when the Browns had that 33rd pick Friday, they were going to make it Shedeur. But to see the quarterbacks get drafted ahead of him, again, in Tyler Shugg, Jalen Milroe, Dylan Gabriel, the only one I can justify there, and I haven't even mentioned Jackson Dart, obviously, but the only one I can justify in terms of those that were picked on Friday is Dylan Gabriel, just because of the winning. And you feel like in that type of an offense, it's a lot more similar to NFL offenses than most colleges would suggest, not to mention the fact that under Dan Lanning, we just saw Bo Nix and the transition he was able to make as a Duck quarterback to the NFL and how basically he didn't skip a beat. That's the only justification you can make in terms of taking a quarterback over Shedeur Sanders on Friday. But the other two, Tyler Shugg, I mean, Stephanie's like a big-time sports fan, big-time football fan. That's your sport. That's your sport. And you're the ultimate litmus test. You couldn't tell me who Tyler Shugg is if he fell on your lap.
No, I couldn't.
Right? That's a problem. That's a problem. And he was picked ahead of Shedeur? Like, come on. Jalen Milroe, his middle name should have been inconsistent. I know he started off as a guy that many people would feel would, get some Heisman notoriety and attention, but he fell by the wayside. And I think a lot of that had to do with not having Nick Saban there. That's an absolute argument that you can make for sure. But the truth of the matter is, with Kalen DeBoer, that did not work out well at all. That did not work out at all. And so I get the inconsistency of Jalen Milroe and how you felt like at times he could be the best player on any given day, and then he was a liability when it came to being high turnover prone, when it came to not being able to read defenses as properly as we thought he was capable of doing. So I don't get how Jalen Milroe, who didn't have close to the success of Shedeur Sanders in 2024. With, by the way, an offensive line that could protect him a lot better than what Shedeur Sanders' O-line was able to protect when it came to him. I don't understand how you make that selection over Shedeur. I don't understand, again, how Tyler Shough, who, again, I've seen maybe once in my life get taken over Shedeur Sanders. I also think there's an element to jealousy here. I do think when you pick Shedeur Sanders, you are going to get the mouthpiece of Deion. There's no question in my mind about that. You talk about the platforms that we have in college sports. I don't think there's any bigger platform than Deion Sanders. And there's always the notion that Deion has wanted to coach in the NFL. I'm not saying there was serious consideration, but there was serious conversation when it came to Jerry Jones and Deion Sanders. So you know that's on the table. That's the only reason I can think of why someone with the talent that Shedeur Sanders has, and I know he lost 4 games his senior year. I recognize that. But you never looked at Shedeur as the reason to why they lost. So the only thing I can think of is that NFL franchises believe that he is ultimately more of a distraction with the last name, with the notoriety, than would outweigh productivity-wise. That's the only rationalization and justification I can come up with why a quarterback that was clearly in the Heisman conversation, and a quarterback that not until, I would say 2 weeks ago, there was a legit conversation about him being the number 1 overall pick over Cam Ward. I don't get how in the hell he is not drafted in the first 3 rounds, other than these are general managers who don't know what they're doing and would rather play it safe and not deal with all the attention that comes with getting Shedeur and just want to, look after themselves. That's the only justification I can make. But this won't be the first time that quarterbacks get completely omitted, glossed over, and disrespected during the NFL draft. Stephanie, can you remind us where Kurt Warner was drafted?
No.
Carlos, can you remind me where Kurt Warner was drafted, please? What round? It's tough to think of, right? Folks, Kurt Warner, a Hall of Fame quarterback, Kurt Warner, was undrafted. So it is possible for all 32 NFL franchises to get it completely wrong. We could talk about quarterbacks being drafted really low, the greatest of them all, pick 199, 2000, that being Tom Brady. All you have to know is when it comes to your value, and I think Shedeur Sanders understands this, just because someone else fails to see it doesn't mean that it's non-existent. That's the truth when it comes to Shedeur. This is the best thing that could have possibly happened to him. It's the best thing because he's going to have the biggest you-know-what chip on his shoulder. And the NFL teams that did not draft him are all going to be on his target list. We talk about the Saints quarterback situation and debacle that is right now. We don't know the future of Derek Carr in terms of him even being on the field in 2025. What I do know is the greatest quarterback in the history of that franchise, and Drew Brees, was not even drafted in the first round. So there are so many instances when you look at quarterbacks that completely get glossed over and omitted. And this is one of them. And it's unfair that having the last name Sanders worked against him in drastic measures. But come Sunday, at a date soon to be near, probably 5-6 months from now, when he is a starting NFL quarterback, this is going to go down as one of the biggest steals in NFL history. I love Deion Sanders. I have for quite some time. Neon Deion, prime time. His reputation and his personality, unfortunately, hurt his son in the draft process. I'm not blaming Deion, but the celebrity, the attention, the platform that comes with being a Sanders, it did ultimately allow him to drop in historic fashion. But it's going to be one of the greatest gifts to whatever team is smart enough to draft him come Saturday. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. When you look at this, not just fall by Shedeur Sanders, but this plummet in terms of the NFL draft, can you make any sense of it? Can you justify it? Can you rationalize it? Can you dissect it? Again, the only thing that I can possibly come up with is the platform, the celebrity, the notoriety, and the last name outweighs the perceived production by NFL general managers. We're going to take your calls on that on the other side. You can always hit us up in our YouTube chat at any point during the show. Always great to be on YouTube. And up next, we're going to talk about the number 1 overall draft pick. And I believe, in terms of what he's going to mean to Tennessee, it is going to be a match made in heaven. That, of course, is Cam Ward. My name is David Shepard. You can always follow me at Shep on Air on any social media platform. Again, we're taking your Shador Sanders calls, 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. We are just getting started on the Good Shepherd. There is so much more to do. We're coming right back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Man, Chef, man, he like the smoothest dude in America, man. I like dude, man. Cool dude, man.
This is the Good Shepherd.
Welcome back to the Good Shepherd on the Infinity Sports Network. Number to get aboard, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. I do want to talk about Cam Ward, but I know we got a lot of people that automatically want to get in and offer their insight and opinions on Shedeur Sanders. Look, I'm very fortunate because I get the good luck and good fortune of being able to see the YouTube chat and see the comments, and I always love the regulars in there. And if you're new to the program, you can always hit us up on the YouTube chat. It doesn't just have to be on the busy phone lines. And the majority of what I'm seeing is that a lot of people feel like Shedeur Sanders was really overhyped in college football, and that I am giving too much praise, way too much praise to Shedeur Sanders. That's the consensus that I'm seeing from the YouTube chat. And so that usually aligns with then what you get from social media and what you also get from the phone lines. But let's just be clear about Shedeur Sanders before we hit the phone lines for 1 second. The Big 12 last year, at worst, was the third or fourth best conference in the country. At worst. Shedeur Sanders was the player of the year in the conference. Player of the year. And that's with his buddy, Travis Hunter, who obviously we saw win the Heisman Trophy. Shedeur Sanders is having, and I want to make sure I get this right, he's the first player in college football history to have his number retired and not be selected 5 days later in the NFL draft's first round. We ain't even talking the next two. We're just talking the first round. Now, yes, Deion Sanders being there, does that have some influence over his kid getting his jersey retired? Certainly does. But if you just look at Shedeur's stat line, 37 passing touchdowns, completing 70% of his passes, not going 9-4 with Colorado. Like, I don't know how you can look at his career and say it was anything but spectacular. And oh yeah, he threw a school record 64 passing touchdowns over 2 years there, and this is with multiple offensive coordinators. I think the hate on Shedeur Sanders has far exceeded the merit there. It has gone into the territory of just envy. And I'm not saying that's the case for everyone. Look, you can absolutely find flaws in his game, but he didn't deserve to fall to minimum round 4. This is a first-round draft pick as a quarterback. Yes, the size is going to be a question mark at the next level, the ability to extend plays, the ability to process, but that's most rookie quarterbacks in the NFL. This is unfortunate, and I hope to God that Shedeur Sanders understands that sometimes in life, there's so much more than just your actual talent and the actual projection of what you're supposed to be. There's other factors here. And one of those factors is being a Sanders absolutely hurt his draft stock. And we witnessed that on this Thursday and past Friday. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. How in the world can you explain this fall, not just fall, but this plummet when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, who was up for debate of being the number 1 overall pick a month or two ago, falling to round 4 at best? Let's get to Tony in Toronto. Tony, it's always good to hear from you, man. Hope you're staying warm north of the border. And what do you have for us, sir?
Well, first of all, thank you for taking my call. And I want to talk about two things. First, I want to talk about Shedeur, and then I want to talk a little bit of NHL.
Sure.
Shedeur, Mr. Sanders there, yes, his dad last. Well, his last name is what's causing trouble because 32 teams are not touching him.
Yeah.
They interviewed him.
Right.
They looked at him. Something's wrong. So there's something there that because even Dallas didn't even look at him, and and I found that weird. Okay, round 1, I said okay, round 2 for sure. Now 3, like something's wrong. Now I know he's a little slow in the pocket. That's what I'm hearing. That's why teams don't want him.
Yeah.
But I actually agree with you that his dad is the reason why no one wants to touch him. Because there's going to be a lot of hype around this guy because his dad's going to be there, right? You know what I mean? And
yeah,
Tony,
I don't know if you agree or disagree with this comparison, but the guy I think of, and it's a different reason, obviously, but the guy I think of is Tim Tebow. There's no way you can tell me that Tim Tebow led a team to the NFL playoffs, won a playoff game, and the next year couldn't even see the field. I mean, I understand he was limited, but you're telling me he couldn't be an NFL player? I think the attention and the notoriety that came with Tim Tebow, the distraction outweighed any productivity that he was able to unfortunately put up on the field. And we know he could play. He could play at the NFL level. He takes over for, at the time, I think it was Kyle Orton. Remember that when they were 1-4 and he led the Broncos to the playoffs? But the problem with Tebow was the fanfare that came with him, the attention, the notoriety. And I don't think there's a quarterback in the last few years that had more popularity in college football than Shedeur Sanders.
Correct, and like you said, being the player of the year, I watched a few games, and I thought he was great, but again, in his interview process, like it's impossible. The 32 general managers or scouts just said, we don't want him, right? They went in a different direction. Like Pittsburgh needed him.
Cleveland. Let's be honest.
Everybody.
New York. Carlos Ortiz knows this better than anyone.
Right.
New York Giants. I mean, they need themselves a quarterback. Carlos, that's true. I mean, it's been a disaster there. Outside of one playoff win from Daniel Jones, where Minnesota forgot to show up that game, they've done nothing. Even Eli Manning in his twilight years, they couldn't do anything in New York with the quarterback position. So you go with Jackson Dart. What did Jackson Dart do that was so special that Shedeur wasn't able to do? He didn't have a better year than him.
Again, I actually think it's the interview process. Maybe his dad was involved or something like that, or he told him what to say, what not to say. Because there's no way that 32 general managers are all thinking the same way, or scouts. Like it's very.
I agree.
You know what I mean? But the other thing,
NHL wise, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. Toronto's going after one brother at a time. First Brady, and then Matthew.
Okay. Now, obviously, for anyone not paying attention to that particular series against Ottawa, they are up 3-0. It has been since 1967 since the Toronto Maple Leafs have won themselves a Stanley Cup championship. And who knows, maybe this is the year Canada finally gets on that particular, square in terms of being an NHL Stanley Cup champion. It's been now 33 years and counting, 32 years with the Montreal Canadiens, right?
Yep. That's right. Right. 32 years that a Canadian team has not hoisted a cup in Canada, but we have Canadian players playing in each team.
Yeah, well, of course you do. Yeah.
Right, 32 years that a Canadian team's not touching it, but I think we broke the curse. I think we broke the curse this year. We have a curse here in Toronto, and 67, it's a long time ago, but I think we're going to take it this year, and Florida, we're coming for you.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, we know Florida's up in that series 2-0 against the Tampa Lightning. So we will certainly find out. Tony, always enjoy our back and forth, my friend. You have a good rest of your Saturday, okay?
The same, sir. Cheers.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate you, man. Number to get aboard, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Jeremy in Dallas, good morning, man. What do you have for us on Shedeur Sanders?
Good morning, Shep. How are you? Last time I talked to you was after Luka's revenge game back in Dallas.
Man, it seems like every time we talk, man, there's something big happening in sports.
Look, I may be in the minority here, but from this last season for Shedeur in Colorado up until him, turning down attendance at the draft and, running all the drills and stuff.
Sure. And by the way, Jeremy, in fairness, he was projected to go high in the first round. Most quarterbacks do that. That's not something that is an aberration that Shedeur did. It's not something unprecedented.
Correct. He wasn't even projected to go high. He was projected to be battling number one with Cam Ward.
I agree.
But neither here nor there. As the season played out and as everything else played out, I myself started to be like, okay, something doesn't seem right. I've heard there's question marks about his delayed trigger, his pocket presence. Granted, he didn't play behind a good old line, but I feel like he has too many question marks about his play that the platform like you said, outweighs, and people are really doubting, as GMs, they're really doubting, okay, is he going to be able to back up what he puts out platform-wise, social media-wise? Because, going back to when he showed up before the game with the blinged-out watch and ran it in someone's face, he has his dad's ego. Not ego, I don't think that's the right word, but he's got
his dad's confidence too, though. And that should go. That should be what I think puts him over the top. Not to mention the fact that there's nobody that impacted the defensive side of the football in the last 25 years more than Deion Sanders. Now, Lawrence Taylor changed the game, but in terms of the last 25 years, who's impacted defense more? Who has, right? Is it Aaron Donald? Is it Ray Lewis? Is it T.J. Watt? Is it J.J. Watt? To me, it's Deion Sanders. And so Deion has, and I know you're not suggesting otherwise, Deion Sanders has every right to carry himself like he is God's gift to football, and that's also why he was able to have as much success as he has as a coach at Jackson State, as a coach at Colorado, because if you don't manifest it, if you're not putting it out there in the universe, that's the first thing Deion Sanders tells you always has to happen. Now, granted, Colorado, going 9-4, they didn't break the bank in terms of having success. They broke the bank in terms of, financial compensation they got as a program, but they weren't in the same league and sphere as in Ohio State. We get all that. But in terms of attention, who got more attention in college football than Colorado this past year?
Right. And that's because, Deion and his boys followed him and how they were going to turn that program in a 180, and they did, absolutely. All the credit to them.
Yep.
But I was shocked. I almost jumped out of the truck today when he did not go around 3.
Same.
I thought second, third, but if he doesn't, at this point, it's not even a fall, a slip. He is falling out of a plane with no parachute.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if he gets out of 4, but at this point, who knows? Someone at some point, he has to take a flyer. The upside is too good, but I feel like the platform and him being his dad's quarterback, there's a lot of questions there. How is he going to respond to coaching outside from his father?
I agree. Jeremy, great call as always, man. I appreciate the perspective. Stay warm in Dallas, and let's hope the Mavericks actually do something productive when it comes to basketball for a season and not trade away a superstar. How does that sound to you?
You and me can hope, but at this point, I am hoping Luka gets what he deserves.
Yeah,
because obviously the Mavericks are gone.
I'm with you, Jeremy. I'm with you. Always a pleasure, man. Always good to talk to Jeremy in Dallas. Number to get aboard: 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. We're going to take your calls right when we get back. We're going to certainly talk about the other high draft picks in 2025. Just very quickly, there's guys that all 32 teams have passed on before. Jake Delhomme. You talk about an individual like Jeff Garcia. Tony Romo, the Hall of Famer that is Warren Moon, and then the Hall of Famer that is Kurt Warner. All 5 of those guys went undrafted. It is possible and conceivable and likely in this particular instance that all 32 GMs completely whiffed on Shedeur Sanders. There is no reason, there is no rhyme, there is no explanation how someone who had that type of proficiency and success at the college football level slipped and plummeted in the first 3 rounds where his name was not selected. Number to get aboard again, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. When we get back, we're going to continue to take all your calls on what the hell just happened with the plummet that was Shedeur Sanders at the 2025 NFL Draft, and we'll certainly get to the top picks as well. Shedeur should have been part of that conversation. We'll get to those that were. My name is David Shepard. You can always hit me up at Shep on Air on any social media platform. Before we do anything else, let's get to our latest sports flash. Here's Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, Shep, the fall for Shedeur Sanders went to another level. 5 quarterbacks taken before Sanders as the Saints went with a quarterback at 40th overall, Louisville's Tyler Shuck. Jalen Milroe, 3rd round, pick number 92 to the Seahawks. Dylan Gabriel to the Browns at 94. Sanders did not get picked through the first 3 rounds of the tournament. Will now go from a possible 1st overall to a minimum of a 4th round selection, but Sanders keeping his head up while with his brother Shiloh on his Twitch.
We're here, we're in good spirits, of course. God don't make mistakes. We got faith in God no matter what. Whatever it is.
Checking the NBA playoffs, with the Bucks not wanting to fall into an 0-3 hole as they leaned on their superstar.
Giannis going the other way. Defended by Walker, who has not played until this moment of the game. Giannis drives right by him, lays it in with a foul. The Greek Freak going to work, and the Bucks continuing to swell that lead.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, 37 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. Gary Trent Jr. at 37, connecting on 9 of 12 from deep as the Bucks ripped the Pacers 117-101, pulled to within 2-1 in the series. Call courtesy of the Bucks Radio Network. Rest of your score, T-Wolves handled the Lakers 116-104. 30 for Jaden McDaniels, 29 Anthony Edwards. LeBron James poured in 38 in the loss, while Luka Doncic had just 17 as Minnesota now takes a 2-1 series lead. And Franz Wagner, 32, Paolo Banchero, 29. Magic able to hold off the Celtics 95-93, pulled to within 2-1 in the series. Jason Tatum did play, led Boston with 36. Hockey, Edmonton lit the lamp 4 times in the third, bounced the Kings 7-4, pulled to within 2-1 in the series. Montreal doubled the Capitals 6-3, but still trailed that series 2-1. And the Devils outlast the Hurricanes 3-2 in double overtime on a Simone Nemec game winner. Carolina still leads that series, though, 2-1. Baseball, the Pirates blanked the Dodgers 3-0. Paul Skeens struck out 9 over 6 1/3. Nationals walked it off with the Mets 5-4. Braves overpowered the D-backs 8-2. Rays down to Padres 1-0. Twins ripped the Angels 11-4. A's able to outlast the White Sox 6-5. Rangers shut out the Giants 2-0. Marlins doubled the Mariners 8-4. Reds outscored the Rockies 8-7. Cardinals 3, Brewers 2. Royals blanked the Astros 2-0. Blue Jays rallied by the Yankees 4-2. And the Cubs shut out the Phillies 4-0. I'm Marco Belletti.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Man, Chef, man, he like the smoothest dude in America, man. I like dude, man. Cool dude, man.
This is the Good Shepherd.
Welcome back, everybody. This is indeed the Good Shepherd on the Infinity Sports Network. I promised you we would talk about some of the top picks. So Abdul Carter, considered to be the ultimate blue chip generational type player. I felt like that was a pick that was not going to be made by the Giants. I felt like the Giants, I had a feeling that they would go Shador, the big time spotlight, the biggest market in the country. But they didn't want to pass up on him. When you talk about a guy who has comparisons with the likes of Von Miller, the Giants knew to get this individual as high as they did. We knew he was outstanding as a pass rusher, his time as a Nittany Lion, elite quickness, the skill, the tenacity, his ability to get under blocks. Simply a disruptor. He did lead the nation with 24 tackles for a loss in 2024. So he's got the range to make all kinds of plays in pursuit. And the reality is you still get Jackson Dart as well at the quarterback position. So shout out to Abdul Carter, someone that, didn't get the same kind of notoriety as Cam Ward or Travis Hunter, but an individual that is just 21 years old. And to be the third overall pick, I think the G-men really did well for themselves. Number to get aboard, 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. Carlos, did you like that G-man impression, by the way, man? It's always good to see you. I still can't believe you're here, by the way.
Yeah, I've never been here this late.
Yeah.
Trying to podcast the Bart Winkler Show, which you could catch weeknights, 10 p.m., 2 a.m. Eastern. Everybody else, figure out your own times.
Hey, can I just tell you this something, man? I listen to you guys. Bart's obviously Bart.
Oh, so you're the one.
Bart's very talented. The chemistry you guys have is undeniable. It is such an easy listen. Like, I hope you know how good your show is.
Oh, I appreciate that. Tell your friends, because we need the ratings.
I will. Stephanie, listen to the Bart Winkler Show. How does that sound?
I will listen.
I know you will. Let's get to Timothy in Wichita. Timothy, good morning, man. What you got for us on Shedeur Sanders?
Oh, I'm
you're saying the same thing as most of us. I'm pretty sure it's because of his dad is why we're not seeing him drafted right now. And then I do have another player for a wide receiver for Matthew Goldberry. I think I said his name right.
Yeah.
I think he should have. I think Dallas missed up on an opportunity to draft him, and for that first round as well. But with Sanders, him being not drafted now is kind of crazy because he was one of the picks as the first pick, and now I think we're almost 6 quarterbacks. He would be the 6th quarterback.
You're 100% right. Obviously, Dart, Ward in the first round, and then Tyler Shuck, Jalen Milroe, Dylan Gabriel. I'm shocked that he's the 6th quarterback taken, and it may not be 6th. I'm shocked. I have a feeling he's getting picked in the 4th round. You can't pass on someone that had that much productivity, was that efficient, was that accurate, completed nearly 75% of his passes. I don't care what conference you're doing that in. 75% of your passes is all-time great. And at the NFL level, you got to be able to make those airtight window throws. Shedeur can certainly do that. It's unfortunate, man. And look, he's handling himself, with a lot of class and like the champ that he is, man. He's not pointing fingers. He's not, doing anything to where he's picking on anyone or showing any resentment or any bitterness or any rancor. He's just embracing it, and he's, showing his gratitude to those that believe in him. And that's a good sign of maturity. And that's what you want in an NFL quarterback.
Well, that's what I was thinking too, because like his dad raised him right to not back down and whatnot. But also with that, that's the controversy with his dad and stuff, like him getting his jersey retired. I think that threw off a few of the teams as well. They're just like, wait, so what's going to happen now with him getting his jersey retired for college and then the controversy around that?
Yeah. No, but that wasn't him. That was more the school showing their gratitude and, their appreciation for someone that was so big and putting them on the map. So, Timothy, man, good call. As always, man, I appreciate hearing from you. You have a good rest of your Saturday, okay?
And thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure, Timothy. Number to get aboard, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. When we get back, Daily, you are a nice guy. We will talk about the number 1 overall draft pick and get to so many more of your calls. Shep on the Infinity Sports Network. We coming right back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
When I wake up in the morning, love, and the sunlight hurts my eyes, and something without warning, love, bears heavy on my mind. Then I look at you, and the world's alright with me.
Back to the Good Shepherd.
Welcome back, everybody. David Shepard on the Infinity Sports Network. Great to be with you, however and wherever you may be listening from. Stephanie, you're making a lot of people really happy right now because you had the request of Bill Withers and you absolutely delivered the goods. So, Stephanie, it's great to see you as always. Great to have you on the show. Great to still have Carlos here. I don't know why he's still here, but we're still grateful for him being here. Is there truth to the rumor that people are making fun of my T-shirt?
Yes.
Do you guys, as fashion people in that room right now, because you both have good taste, is it really a reason to make fun of my T-shirt? Do you think it's people being overly critical? Because if it's not my hair, it's got to be something else. I feel like this T-shirt is plenty ample for a radio host. What say you?
For knowing you as long as I have,
we've known each other a while now.
This is about the most presentable I've ever seen you. So
was that wait a minute, was that a backhanded compliment? I don't know if that was something that was actually meant to like make my feelings hurt there.
I mean, you could take it how you want. Yeah, it's a compliment.
Wait, time out.
It could also be backhanded.
Time out. I'm not saying I'm Ryan Hickey in terms of how well he dresses and everything that he puts into his presentation, but I don't present myself well, Carlos. And this is a no holds barred truth circle right now.
I did not say that.
You don't think I show up presentable?
I did not say that. I said you look more presentable than I have seen since I've known you.
Really?
And what was the first thing I said to you when you came in here? I'm like, oh, look at you with the tightly nice beard and the haircut. Looking sharp there. And I don't have no problems with the T-shirt. First of all, it fits, which is always a plus.
Listen, as a guy, I'm not the tallest guy in the world. I'm sure you've noticed. So you have to compensate when you're not that tall. I'm not Zach Gelb, who's 6'3", 6'4". So when that's the case, you got to show up looking fit. You got to show up looking like you work out, like you take care of yourself. And Stephanie, people make fun of me all the time because they say I go to Baby Gap and wear these tight T-shirts. But like for me, I genuinely enjoy just looking fit, looking strong. So I got no problem wearing T-shirts.
I think it looks great.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. People are hard on me in this chat. I tell you, they come after my fashion sense. They come after my T-shirts. And whatever you do, don't ever broadcast what you eat. They will never live it down. There are 20 different Twitter handles like dedicated to Shep Tuna. I kid you not. I had it one time during a commercial break. I still can't live it down. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Not that we have to go into that conversation, but the truth of the matter is, I'm glad you guys are propping me up because I got no problem with my fashion sense. By the way, I think you both dress very well, and I think that's something that is appropriate when it comes to radio because of the streaming that we now do on YouTube. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4ISN. I want to make sure that we hit on Cam Ward because the reality is we're spending a lot of time talking about Shedeur. We're obviously going to get back to all of your phone calls. But this is the number one pick of the draft. And I feel like because of the fall of Shedeur, that's what the majority of people are going to be talking about. I don't think that's that fair. When you talk about Cam Ward, I don't want him to get lost in the shuffle. This is someone that I believe will have the biggest impact on this rookie class in 2025. You look at him versus Shedeur Sanders, the difference was the comfortability and the escapability when they get pressure in the pocket or outside of it. And there's a reason why Cam Ward completely swept all of the quarterback awards, whether it be the Davey O'Brien, whether it be the Manning Award. And this past season in college football, he threw for his 156th career passing touchdown. That is the definition of what it means to rewrite the record books in college football. And we've had some great Miami Hurricane quarterbacks. You talk about Ken Dorsey, obviously an individual that comes to mind is Vinny Testaverde. And then Bernie Kosar, for those people that watched college football in the 80s. I was not alive for that. I was born in the 80s. I didn't watch college football then, but people tell me how great Bernie Kosar was as a member of the Miami Hurricanes. There has been no greater quarterback in that program's history than Cam Ward, and that's saying something. And when you talk about Cam Ward and how he was able to do against ranked opponents, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, averaged nearly 200 yards per half, quite the contrast from Shedeur Sanders, who struggled against ranked opponents, who did look average all too often. And that was the distinction between those two in terms of why one eventually took the lead to be the number 1 overall pick, but that doesn't justify Shedeur again sliding in the draft in the manner in which he did. So you got to feel really good right now if you're the Tennessee Titans. Cam Ward can make all the throws. He's humble. He's someone that understands what it means to be the face of a program. Yes, they never should have lost to the likes of Syracuse and an engineering school in Georgia Tech, but the reality is when they lost, they never, ever did it because of Cam Ward. So the Titans should feel really good about getting this particular selection. And Cam Ward, he's going to be humble, but he's always going to be confident. He spoke about what he would bring to the Tennessee Titans. Let's take a listen.
They getting somebody who wants to win. I'm excited for opportunity. Shout out to Miss Amy, the GM, for making the right decision, getting me. But I'm excited. I know they're thrilled as well. But I'm just happy, to be somewhere where I want it, and I'll make sure that my teammates get everything out of me.
I don't know how y'all feel about this, but whenever someone says Miss and says like the first name of someone, it shows an upbringing and a level of respect that they have for authority, that they have for their elders. That's always a good sign. I don't know how many people caught the interview with Arch Manning and in ESPN, but you could tell everything that I think it was the gentleman that does NASCAR and the name Marty Smith, I think, and you could just tell every other answer was sir, yes sir. It does speak to the level of accountability and leadership that goes with being a quarterback. It's something that, to Trevor Lawrence's credit, you hear from him too. So listen, Cam Ward, you're the number 1 overall pick, man. That's got to have some lofty expectations, right?
It's special. God did everything for me. Him, myself, my family. And I'm just blessed to be here. I'm ready to get to work with the Titans, with my teammates, and I'm just ready to get the process going.
So with that being said, in terms of getting the process going, there's a lot of Tennessee Titans fans that feel like the wheels really fell off when Mike Vrabel got unceremoniously fired, which he had no business doing, by the way. And we're obviously talking about a franchise that was a whopping 3-14. So at this point, we're looking for a drastic improvement. We saw that with Jaden Daniels, even though he wasn't the number 1 overall pick in 2024, he was selected number 2 overall. So can Titans fans get something similar to what we saw from Jaden Daniels in terms of impact and wins? Let's hear it.
Well, I'm ready. That's all I've been dreaming for. It was an opportunity to play in the National Football League, and they blessed me with it. So I'll make sure they get everything I got.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do in life. That's all you can do in sports. That's all you can do with family members. That's all you can do with friends, is just give all you can at any given time. And I think that's a really humble approach to any task, to any venture. There's clearly a difference in when you listen to Cam Ward speak and when you listen to Shedeur Sanders speak. Not one is right, not one is wrong, but there's a different level of presentation. With Cam Ward, it's all about someone else. It's all about the team. It's all about the goal. With Shedeur, it's all about the individual. It's often about what makes him so great. It's often about what makes him so unique. And I think that did not sit well nor land well with GMs. I think they were cautious. I think they were hesitant. I think there was tentativeness when it came to Shedeur Sanders and how much hype came with him and how much he spoke about himself. And when you're drafting anybody, you want to see humility in spades, and you clearly see why Cam Ward is not just a number 1 overall pick in terms of talent, but a number 1 overall pick in how he conducts himself. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. I know we're talking a lot of Shedeur Sanders. We're going to continue to take your calls on that. But when it comes to Cam Ward, do you believe he is going to be the most impactful player from this 2025 NFL draft? You can certainly mention Abdul Carter. You can certainly talk about Travis Hunter. There's other individuals like Shedeur Sanders when he eventually gets drafted. Who do you believe is going to have the biggest impact from this 2025 NFL draft class? I do believe it is going to be Cam Ward, and I will be shocked if they don't at least double their win total from 2024, which was a measly 3 wins. And what do you call a 3-win season? A really good season if you're Doug Gottlieb. Number to get aboard again, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Sorry, I had to do it. I heard him on Dan Patrick basically gloating over how great the season was. We all know that was an epic disaster. Let's get to Josh in Spokane, Washington. Josh, good morning, man. Always good to hear from you, my friend. How you doing? You feeling better?
What's up, Shep? Yeah, man, I'm feeling real good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Always good to have you on the program.
Thank you, man. Hey, I would never ask you this, but it happened like 2 segments in a row, man. Shep, are you a Swiftie? Be honest.
Am I a Swiftie? I admire her work. I admire her career. I don't think the talent matches the hype, if I'm being honest.
No, that's fair, man.
Yeah.
You played 2 songs, and I know Stephanie's in control of that, but dude, I'm not gonna lie, man. You got me hyped, man. I'm like, oh, dude.
Stephanie, are you big Swiftie? Is that why we're it's up to her what we play. That's her choice. I'm never gonna micromanage anyone who's my producer. But Stephanie, are you a big Taylor Swift fan?
I am the biggest Taylor Swift fan.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know this.
I am the Taylor Swift fan.
Can you explain to me why she has so much attention and so much commercial success? I get that she's a gifted songwriter, but the vocal component to it.
She's very talented vocally.
Very is a stretch.
Very, very,
No, that's a real stretch. You're telling me like see what you started, Josh? Let's look at Ariana Grande.
Oh, okay? Taylor Swift is way better than Ariana Grande.
No, as a vocalist?
Yes.
Yes.
Carlos.
No, all right. Everybody's far out of the line here.
Come on.
I will not accept any Ariana Grande slander. She has the greatest range since Mariah Carey. We need to stop it. Taylor Swift is a fantastic songwriter.
When she wasn't losing her voice during the holidays. Because Mariah Carey in 2024, 2025, it's much different from 30 years ago.
She got some mileage.
Okay, let me put you on the spot for a second, Stephanie. I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't want you to be honest, okay? Now, you're going to just be careful with how you answer this. All right, pressure's on. Not at all. Whitney Houston or Taylor Swift? Who's the better vocalist?
Oh, Whitney Houston.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page with,
We are, yes.
with the real measurement of Taylor Swift as a singer. She has a better voice than Christina Aguilera?
No.
Why are you so hard on Ariana Grande then?
I think Ariana Grande is very well trained.
Yeah.
She was phenomenal in Wicked. She killed it. But she does not enunciate her words. And I just think that is the reason I don't think she's a good vocalist.
Lady Gaga or Taylor Swift?
Lady Gaga.
Okay. Josh, who's a great someone like Demi Lovato? Demi Lovato or Taylor Swift?
Demi Lovato.
Okay, so I've given you four prominent vocalists.
I would have actually gone Taylor there.
No, Demi's unbelievable.
Carlos, you haven't heard Demi perform then.
Yeah, no.
That's what that tells me. You haven't heard Demi Lovato perform.
I'm also a 40-year-old Puerto Rican. I'm not going to go see Demi Lovato.
Dude, you're 40?
Concert. Yeah, well,
That's what I said.
You got some good genes, man. Carlos, you're looking good for 40.
Oh,
Damn, you look young.
I keep getting that. I don't know why.
Damn, you're like the LeBron James fountain of youth. Anyways, Josh, does that answer your question? Why we play so much Taylor Swift music?
That does, Shep. And I think all those people are great, man, but I think Adele beats every single one of them. Adele's the GOAT.
Adele's another one. How could we forget Adele? And someone I think that obviously not the same because she's not in her prime anymore, but when I think of vocalists, you have to put Celine Dion in that conversation as well, without question.
Sure, man. I'm so sorry. I just led you guys on a total different thing.
No,
so,
that's okay. I could have stopped you in your tracks and said, how dare you bring up Taylor Swift? Let's focus on what you're calling about, which is obviously Shedeur Sanders. I don't want to talk about anything that has nothing to do with the NFL draft, and I completely went with it. So it's on me, if anything. But now that we have that out of the way, let's get back on the tracks and talk about Shedeur Sanders and his love of Taylor Swift. I'm just kidding about the second part. But when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, do you believe this is grossly unfair what has happened to him on Thursday and Friday? Because I certainly do.
Well, I certainly don't, Shep. I think, I like Colorado. You know, I like the Dion thing. But, Shep, I think he has talent. I'm not saying he doesn't. But part of me doesn't find it unfair just with his attitude. The way that he's acted, I think, has been very childish on the field. And I think what he said yesterday, like, I didn't see this coming. It's kind of like, to me, like, put a talent aside, I don't think that he's the leader that teams should be looking for. And I think that that's why people maybe, I don't know what teams are thinking. I honestly thought he would have been drafted by now. But in my personal opinion, I wouldn't draft him because I don't think he's the leader that an NFL team should be looking for. So, and I don't even think he was the leader on Colorado.
Yeah, so Josh, so stay with me on this for a second. You remember the physical gestures and the alienation that Baker Mayfield used to do towards college football fans when he was at Oklahoma?
Oh, trust me, Shep. I don't think Baker is either. At least back then.
Thank you. That's my point. Anyone would tell you the same thing. Anyone would tell you he was basically going to be Johnny Manziel 2.0 in terms of his lack of leadership. Now, obviously, we're talking about, unfortunately, habits that Johnny Manziel couldn't control that cost him his NFL career. But I'm talking from a maturity perspective. There was a lot of conversation that Baker Mayfield would follow down that track. Now, obviously not talking about the alcohol, but I'm just talking about the behavior, right? The childish antics. And what has Baker Mayfield done with his NFL career in terms of the leader that he has become? And I know that's a little bit of a leading question, but what has he ultimately become as a man, as a quarterback, as the voice of a locker room? What has he become to you?
To me, he's become the guy from the Progressive commercials, in my personal opinion.
Okay, well, that's fair.
I mean, at least he used to be, I guess.
Here's what I see. I see a guy that has honestly found God. And this is not something that is spurious. This is not something that he puts out there for his image or for his brand. There was a transformation in him. There really was. Now, for me, I look at Baker Mayfield and I look at the family man that he has become. I look at the ambassador to the franchise of Tampa Bay that he has become. It's night and day. It's a 180. I say all that to say that it's possible for someone to be cocky, to be a little too into themselves, to be arrogant at 22, 23 years old, Josh. Most people at that age, no offense, Stephanie, most people at that age are that way because they haven't been dealt a whole lot of humble pie. You know what I'm saying? They don't know what it's like to go into the world in a professional setting and get chewed out and get their asses handed to them because they're so used to success in high school and college that when they get to the professional ranks, that's a whole different level. And what happened to Baker Mayfield was he got humbled. And you can either do one or two things. You become even better because of it, and you grow. Baker Mayfield did that and then some. Or you falter and, eventually play yourself out of the NFL by 24, 25, like a Johnny Manziel. Baker grew up. Baker completely revitalized not just his playing ability, but his image and ultimately his character. And if we're going to give the same leniency and latitude for someone like Baker, who was then obviously picked number 1 overall, we should do the same for Shedeur. This is completely wrong, what took place in his plummet. He has no business being picked after the first day, let alone over the weekend. This is a disgrace. I believe this is something that is going to go down as one of the biggest steals in NFL history. And it's a shame that we're using that quote-unquote confident personality against him, because that's how he has been his entire career, because in fairness, he is a Sanders. And that just comes with being a Sanders. You know what I mean?
No, I agree with that, Shep. Last thing, I'm not saying that this is what Shedeur is going to be like the rest of his career, because I actually appreciate what you said about Baker finding God, and that matured him. As a Christian myself, I've seen many friends that have totally changed their lives. They're just totally different through that, and it's just really encouraging. I'm sorry, I won't try to give like a full sermon.
No, it's okay. I mean, Josh,
I totally know what you mean by that.
Yeah, I mean, a guy I think of now, he didn't do it on the field. It was after the fact. But look at someone like Ryan Leaf. Look how much that man's turned his life around. I can't judge someone at 22, 23 and say, engage, that's going to be the personality for the next 5, 10 years. People evolve. People adapt. You're supposed to be cocky coming out of college. I don't know many college kids that come out of school and are not saying they want my job. They want Carlos's job. They want Stephanie's job. They think they're better than all of us. I mean, that's most college kids for you. I'm not saying it's all college kids, but there's a hubris. There's an arrogance that comes with being on top of the world in that quote-unquote little bubble and thinking that you're going to take over the world and it's your oyster. That just comes with the territory. You don't hear many people like Cam Ward have that kind of humility. It's rare.
Yeah, man. And I hope, you can say that this is unfair. I do hope that this allows Shedeur to be more of a mature human being and more of a leader. I think there's moments like this is what's going to build him, man. We need these setbacks in life, man. And it's as hard as it is for him. These setbacks are only going to make us stronger. So, I'm sure he'll be fine. I don't say any of that because I don't like Shedeur. I hope the best for his career.
I do
without
too.
a doubt.
I do too, and it's going to be one of the most humbling, but also most meaningful experiences he's ever had. And Josh, you, my friend, I know you're a young guy. You were wise beyond your years, man. So you keep doing what you're doing. It's always great to hear from you, brother. And I'm glad you're feeling better, man.
Yeah, I'm getting there. My family, unfortunately, they're not feeling too good. So
gotcha.
They got what I got. So it's a little rough, but we're getting through it, though, man. So thank you so much for asking me about that, man. That just shows the type of guy that you are, man. You're a very caring individual, man.
Well,
God bless you.
God bless you, Josh. It's my pleasure, man. It's good to hear from you. I'm not, spilling any secrets here. I love the people that listen to the show. I love the people that are part of it. I love the people that participate. Even though you go after my T-shirts and my hairstyle, still love you nonetheless. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. We're going to continue to take all your draft calls on the other side. I want to make sure that we honor a guy from Colorado, not named Shedeur Sanders, although certainly we'll honor him when he gets drafted. I want to honor Travis Hunter because I believe he is going to be a really special player at the NFL level. Obviously picked number 2 overall. We spent a lot of time talking about his teammate in college. Let's talk about the guy that actually got selected. That's not a knock on Shedeur, but it is a compliment towards Travis. Again, number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. You can always hit us up in our YouTube chat on the Infinity Sports Network page. You can always hit me up at Shep On Air on any social media platform, whether it be Twitter, whether it be Instagram. We're coming right back.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Man, he like the smoothest dude in America, man. I like dude, man. Cool dude, man.
This is the Good Shepherd.
Welcome back, everybody. David Shepard on the Infinity Sports Network. Great to be with you, however and wherever you may be listening from. We're going to get back to phone calls momentarily. Do have to honor Travis Hunter, a once-in-a-lifetime type of player. So valuable. The Jaguars did everything they could to shake up the NFL draft and ultimately skyrocket themselves to the number 2 overall pick and took advantage of getting one of the more unique players again in my lifetime. Travis Hunter missed a few games over the last 2 seasons. With that being said, he still had more snaps than anybody else in college football, which does speak to the uniqueness he has as a player. What's going to be an interesting conversation and talking point is how long can he sustain being a two-way player, especially at this level? Because we've never seen someone do it at the level in which he did it in college. So for anyone who says, well, Shep, you can't get it done in the NFL, the game is too fast, it's too violent, it's too brutal, it's too demanding, to do it on one side of the field, that's really asking for a lot. To be able to do it on 2, that's just unprecedented. Well, he's already checked off that unprecedented box, right? He's already, the only guy in college football history to have 96 catches, 1,300 yards receiving, 15 touchdowns, and also go for 35 tackles, 11 pass breakups, and 4 interceptions. That's never been done before. So a lot of people felt like this pick was going to go to Cleveland, and Andrew Berry has been on record saying how much he loves himself some Travis Hunter. Unfortunately, that's not the way the cards were dealt. There was even conversation that the Titans were going to look to get Travis Hunter because they believed he was the best overall player in this draft. Now, I don't know how much of a smokescreen that was for other teams to kind of do their due diligence and to want to trade up and kind of put up a false screen. But the reality is, you're getting someone that is really, really special as a football player. And he puts his body on the line, and he's so skilled as a receiver. He's so tough, and he also has that incredible instinct and knack as a secondary player. So it's gonna be exciting to see what he's able to do in Jacksonville. There's no question about that in my mind. This is a franchise that took the right step, was able to knock off the Chargers in a playoff game, and then the last 2 years, they've basically been non-existent. The shoulder injury of Trevor Lawrence, and it's been up and down ever since. And a lot of people felt like they were going to take that next leap in the AFC. That's never happened. But you are getting a once-in-a-lifetime player in Travis Hunter, who, again, was putting up numbers that can only be Heisman-worthy. And he's one of the only defensive players in the last century to win that award, the most prestigious award in all of college football. And he's also a highly, highly efficient wide receiver. Not just his ability to go up and catch any football, but his ability to also stick the landing and run through contact. So he's a very well-rounded player, to say the least. He's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of player because he didn't just want to do that in college. He wants to do that in the NFL level. And he made it abundantly clear to anyone considering drafting him, make sure he's going to continue to want to play on both sides of the football. Now, we'll see what happens as his NFL career progresses when he gets to be in his late 20s, early 30s, mid-30s, how much of wear and tear is going to be a factor in him saying to himself, at this point in my career, I'm only going to go one side of the football because I'm getting hurt way too much or there's too much of a pounding that I'm taking. So that's going to be fascinating to see how long that can stay up. But what is not going to be fascinating, what's going to be a given, is the instant productivity he's going to be able to give the Jaguars and the rare feat that he is as a two-way player, something we've really never had in our lifetime in NFL history. Yeah, we've had the likes of a Warren Sapp, sometimes, playing offense and getting a celebratory touchdown on the goal line, or you have Troy Brown or Deion Sanders, and in some ways, play two ways, but those were, far and few between, and oftentimes once or twice a game. Travis wants to do this on the regular when it comes to series. So, again, I'm fascinated to see how this plays out, but congratulations to the former Colorado Buffalo wideout and secondary standout, Travis Hunter, being selected number 2 overall in this 2025 NFL Draft. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. Let's get back to the busy phone lines. Let's get to Paul in Sacramento. Paul, good morning, man. How you doing? What you got for us?
Oh, I don't know about Taylor Swift. I'm sort of Emerson Lake a Palmer person myself.
Okay, fair enough.
But I don't like the Cleveland Browns. I love the Cleveland Browns.
Sure.
And that being said, anybody who loves the Cleveland Browns hates the Cleveland Browns.
It's an interesting way to put it, yeah.
We get rid of the number 2 pick.
Sure.
We all know who that was going to be. Okay, we got a haul for it. First draft pick, the kid from Michigan, all right. Running back, okay. So number 94, we're going to draft a quarterback, but it's not Shedeur Sanders. That's like, well, okay, maybe Will Howard because of his, height and just be able to play in bad weather in the north. And then we draft, wait, what? The kid from Oregon?
Yeah,
are you kidding me?
Dylan Gabriel. Now, in fairness, he was a first-team All-American quarterback, was the Big Ten most valuable player, was the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year, and again, had Oregon right in contention essentially to the very end of the season. So I understand they got upset, by Ohio State in the college football playoff, but for a long time, they were considered without question the best team in all of college football. You talk about the 155 career touchdowns. I understand he's not going to light it up anytime soon, but for a third-round pick, number 4 overall, you could have done a lot worse.
Yeah, we didn't pick Shedeur Sanders because we didn't want to deal with his dad, but yet we took Deshaun Watson with the guy who has his character mistreating sex workers. Are you kidding me?
Well, we again that's all up for discussion because we don't know exactly what went down. What we do know is he was found, somewhat liable in one of the cases, and with that all being said, he did pay due justice. He paid his punishment. He got suspended by the NFL for 4 games. So the reality is not just the character of Deshaun Watson, the desire to want to compete, the love of football, the level of productivity, that is all fallen by the wayside. He is an average quarterback now.
We get rid of Baker.
I know.
And, it's just absolutely, and we play him hurt his last year.
His 4th year, to your point. Yeah, he wins you a playoff game for the first time in a quarter century, and then his reward is, hey, we're not going to pay you. We're going to make you a lame duck quarterback, and you're going to have to go out there and play hurt, when they very well knew he was playing hurt. And instead of rewarding that, they sought out a situation where they felt like they were pulling one over on everybody, and they gave Deshaun Watson a unprecedented amount of guaranteed money that had never been given to a quarterback, and it's one of the worst decisions ever made in the history of the NFL.
It's probably the worst. Let me tell you something about Baker. Baker, since he was in college, he's not the most talented quarterback, but he'll play you 1 on 11, that kid. He's got the heart of a lion. That's what makes him who he is, because he's going to try to beat you any way he can. So good for Baker. I'm glad he got his money. I'm glad Amika's down there. And I'm scratching my head like every other Browns fan saying, oh, here we go again. You don't draft Sanders when he's right there at 94.
I know. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how this plays out for Cleveland. I know that you guys deserve a Super Bowl as bad as anyone, and you have a lot of NFL titles.
That's not going to happen in my life, and I'm 67, I've been waiting for it.
Paul, listen, they said the same thing about the Saints. They said the same thing in other sports about the Cubs, about the Red Sox. And the Red Sox, they went 86 years without winning a World Series, and then they win 4 in the span of a decade and a half. So anything is possible, Paul. Anything is possible.
I was at Game 7 for the Cubs and the Indian series, and God intervened in that with that dumb rain delay. So
I hear you. Yeah, when the Guardians were up 3-1 at the time, I'll never forget that back in 2016 for the World Series. Paul, I appreciate the phone call, man. You have a good rest of your morning, and thanks for making time for us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. You really don't hear a lot of clamor for the Browns from Sacramento, so clearly he's in retirement mode, living in a separate area of the country, and good on him. You got to root for something in Sacramento. It can't be the Kings. Number to get aboard, 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. We're going to continue to take all your calls on the other side. Before we do anything else, let's get to our latest sports flash. Here is Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Shep, 3 rounds complete and no Shedeur Sanders. The fall for the Colorado quarterback continues as Sanders will have to wait until the final day to possibly hear his name called. But Shedeur not about to waver. This was with his brother Shiloh on his Twitch.
We're here, we're in good spirits, of course. God don't make mistakes. We got faith in God no matter what. Whatever it is.
Teams are taking quarterbacks, though. 5 taken before Sanders. Saints pulled the trigger on Tyler Shuck in the second round. Jalen Milroe went to the Seahawks in the third round. The biggest surprise, the Browns taking Dylan Gabriel in round 3 as well. NBA playoffs, T-Wolves closed strong, outscored the Lakers by 10 in the fourth, a 116-104 victory for a 2-1 series lead. 30 for Jaden McDaniels, 29 Anthony Edwards, LeBron James 38, but Luka Doncic just 17, 6 of 16 from the floor. Minnesota's up 2-1. Meanwhile, the Bucks getting a monster performance from Gary Trent Jr.
Trent fires up a 3, and he drills another one. Gary Trent Jr. continues his assault from three-point range. He's got smoke pouring out of both barrels now.
9 of 12 from deep for Gary Trent Jr., good for 37. Giannis Antetokounmpo 37 as well. Bucks disposed of the Pacers 117-101, pulled to within 2-1 of the series, called courtesy of the Bucks Radio Network. And the Magic able to withstand the Celtics 95-93. Franz Wagner 32, but they still trailed the series 2-1. Hockey, Edmonton outscored the Kings 7-4 thanks to 4 goals in the third, pulled to within 2-1 of the series. Montreal doubled up the Capitals 6-3, but still trailed that series 2-1. And the Devils able to finally outlast the Hurricanes 3-2 in double overtime on a Simone Nemec game winner, but Carolina still leads the series 2-1. Baseball, the Pirates blanked the Dodgers 3-0 as Paul Skeens struck out 9 over 6 in a third. Nationals walked it off on the Mets 5-4 and a James Wood RBI single. Braves overpowered the Diamondbacks 8-2. Rays silenced the Padres 1-0. Twins ripped the Angels 11-4. A's 6, White Sox 5. Rangers shut down the Giants 2-0. Marlins double up the Mariners 8-4. Reds outscored the Rockies 8-7. Cardinals 3, Brewers 2. Royals blanked the Astros 2-0 as Seth Lugo scattered 3 hits over 8 with 8 Ks. Blue Jays rallied by the Yankees 4-2 and the Cubs shut out the Phillies 4-0. I'm Marco Belletti.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Shep, man, he like the smoothest dude in America, man. I like dude, man. Cool dude, man.
This is the Good Shepherd.
They not like us? This is Drake? Who's the
Kendrick.
Kendrick Lamar. How do I get that wrong? Kendrick or Drake? Who do you choose, Stephanie?
Kendrick.
All day?
Yeah. No
Really?
brainer.
Wow. Did you like his Super Bowl performance?
It was phenomenal.
Okay. I feel like a lot of people missed it. But if I open that topic up, that will take over the show. We're not going to do that. I'm the Good Shepherd. Number to get aboard, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. My name, of course, is David Shepard. That is the great Stephanie Shalego. And please tell me I got your last name right that time.
Nailed it.
Nice job, Shep. Although, in fairness, I should have got it right the first time. Let's get to the busy phone lines. Let's get to a friend of the show, Glenn Niagara Falls. Glenn, before you even ask, I have not watched a lot of NHL playoff hockey. I have understood the headlines. Obviously, Ovi with the game-winning score. They're still up 2-1 in that series. The Maple Leafs up 3-0. I get what's going on in the NHL playoffs, but I have not followed it to the degree that you have, Glenn. So with that being said, my friend, always good to hear from you. What do you have for us, sir?
Oh, hey, David. First off, I mean, I'm not surprised with Stephanie's answer about Kendrick or Drake, but you're talking to a Canadian, man. So, and I thought that halftime show, it's kind of funny, the Kendrick fans loved it.
I know.
I think everybody else hated it.
I know. It was clearly a performance for him, not for them.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
I don't like Drake. The fact he's suing, and that's ridiculous. But yeah, I like Drake. I'm Canadian. So, anyways, couple things. First off, the hockey. Once it gets down a little bit down the other rounds, you got to start watching. There's been some amazing games. I'm still calling Montreal over Washington. I know they're down 2-1.
Right.
They beat them pretty handily tonight.
But Glenn,
that's my big upset for the first round.
To your point, that's when I'll be able to. Like, I can't watch all the NBA playoff games that I'm watching and watch NHL. That's why you can't do it in the first round. And any sports host that tells you they're watching every single game is lying through their teeth. You can't physically
100%.
do that. Yeah.
No, and Tony, I think his name from Toronto. Is that the guy that called earlier?
Yeah, he was the first caller of the show.
Boy,
yes.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man, that guy's got more faith in our buds than I think most people.
Yeah.
I mean, we're up 3-0, and I think a lot of us are still on the edge of their seat. To be honest with you, Ottawa's outplayed them. This is giving you some play-by-play. Ottawa's played well. They've lost 2 overtime games, so the games have been very close. And if they lose tomorrow and then lose the next one, look out. But I don't think this is their year to win the cup, although you never know.
Sure.
I think there's some better teams. But anyway, let's talk about Shedeur. And actually, I wanted to talk about Travis Hunter. All your praise about Travis Hunter. I'm sorry, David. I know you and I agree on so many things.
Yeah.
But this is not one of them. First off, he is not going to go to the NFL and play both sides of the ball. The players are much faster, much more physical, bigger. He's not the biggest receiver out there. I do not believe he's going to be an elite receiver. I do not believe he's very talented. I'm not trying to knock him that much, but I don't think he's going to be the stud that you think he is. I really don't. And I don't think I think it's kind of funny. The two Colorado players are two of the most overrated players. He won the Heisman, and honestly, he's an amazing athlete. He's very well spoken. I like him as a person. I just don't think he's going to be the stud that they're counting on in Jacksonville, because I just don't see it. I just think he's too small to be an elite receiver. He's got good hands, and but in terms of him being a great quarterback, I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, in terms of Shedeur, and I know you're going to love this. You're absolutely going to love this. Where did he go in the Heisman voting?
Wasn't he 8th?
Do you know, David?
Wasn't he 8th?
He was 8th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who was number 9?
Dylan. It wasn't Dylan Gabriel, obviously. It wasn't Ashton Genty. You're Curtis. Yes, you're Indiana boy.
Curtis.
Yes.
Now, Curtis's quarterback rating is better, so he's number 8. Curtis is number 9. To me, Curtis, I don't think he's going to be given the chance because of his knee injury, which is a shame. He was people were talking about him after the first half of the season until he injured his thumb as a legitimate Heisman hopeful. He was putting up humongous numbers. And their division, I know people said they didn't play the greatest teams at the beginning. He was still putting up massive numbers. And I honestly, I don't know where he's going to go, if he's going to go. My message to you is, I think he's got more potential than Shedeur. Everything I've been hearing from the so-called experts is that he's got too many holes in his game, and I don't think it's necessarily the whole stand. Like, I know the fellow from Cleveland was all upset that they didn't pick him.
Sure.
I actually like what Cleveland did, to be honest with you, but I think I don't think that was a mistake. I just think that I think he's not as good as people touted him. I really do, and I think
Glenn, you got to be honest, man, and I know you are. You're telling me that there's not some backlash and some, hey, don't get too big on yourself. We're gonna humble you. That seems to be what's going on right now. You cannot.
Okay, we're talking
because you're talking about a torn ACL. So obviously there's going to be a lot. I mean, a guy I think of all the time is like Hendon Hooker, right? How much he fell in the draft because of a significant injury. Now, I think Curtis Burke, had he not gone down this season, would have been picked in one of the first 3 rounds. I think you talk about his throwing ability, his playmaking ability, and just his overall toughness. You can't really teach that. So based on the success he had at Indiana, winning 10 games, I mean, no one talks about Indiana football. It just doesn't happen, right? And for him to go 10-1 there, like if not for the injury, he's getting drafted on the first 2 days. So I think so too. Right. So in that same vein, Shedeur Sanders, you can't tell me a guy that completed 75% of his passes in one of the best conferences in all of America, an individual that had 37 touchdown passes to just 10 interceptions, an individual that was averaging over 300 yards every single game, who didn't have anything to write home about in terms of an offensive line. There's no way from a talent perspective you can look at what he did and say he doesn't deserve an opportunity to get picked in the first 2 days of the NFL draft. You know this is wrong.
I don't, and I'll tell you why. Because the NFL it obviously is not college football. There's a lot more systems in place. The defensive players are a lot faster. If you watched him play, I mean, I didn't watch him till the end of the season.
Sure.
But with the games I saw, it was almost like backyard football. I don't know what you want to call it. which was working for him. But I don't think that kind of play is going to translate in the NFL. And I honestly think I cannot believe that any NFL team, especially the ones that need quarterbacks desperately, are going to turn up someone that they think could help them turn around their quarterback. I just don't see it.
Let me ask you this differently, Glenn. If his last name is Smith and not Sanders, based on what he did at Colorado, and his dad is not his head coach, just based on the wins, based on the productivity, based on the absolute astronomical completion percentage, does he get drafted the first 2 days of the NFL draft?
No. I'll tell you why, just like I said, I think the reason is he's not he hasn't, now he can learn, but he's not a systems guy. He's kind of a freewheeling, make things happen, which is great. He had
to make things happen. He had to make things happen because he didn't have much to work with in terms of an offensive line. Yeah, he had the skill position, obviously, in Travis Hunter, but he didn't have the great pieces around him. But Glenn, listen, man, we're up against it, but it's always a pleasure to speak to you, my friend. You be well. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right, Celine Dion, 100%, brother.
Glenn, I have to get that in there. I appreciate it, Glenn. Look, there's I'm trying to dig into this as much as possible during breaks and understand what the hell just happened with Shedeur Sanders sliding in the manner in which he did. And there's this viral, tweet that's going around that he said at the NFL Combine, which was, if you don't want to change your culture, don't draft me. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the teams that are drafting, they're drafting that low because they need to change their culture. That's probably the first thing that they should be looking to adjust and looking to improve. And so Shedeur's just beating them to the punch. And I like a quarterback that has the confidence to go into a professional setting and say, I'm going to be the difference maker. Because I remember when Tom Brady was drafted, him going to Mr. Kraft and saying, I'm the best decision you ever made. Why does no one push back on that? It was before he was Tom Brady. This is the Good Shepherd on the Infinity Sports Network. We're coming back with all your Shedeur calls and so much more.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Reason that you had to care, the traffic is stuck and you're not moving anywhere. You thought you found a friend to take you out of this place, someone you can lend a hand in return for grace. It's a beautiful day.
Back to the Good Shepherd.
Welcome back, everybody. David Shepard on the Infinity Sports Network. Great to be with you, however and wherever you may be listening from, whether you're in your car, your truck, at home, at work, however you choose to consume us each and every Saturday morning. Always a pleasure to have you aboard. Now, in terms of the NHL playoffs, my surprise on Friday was the St. Louis Blues over the Winnipeg Jets. We know this is the franchise with the most points of any team in the NHL this year, and for them to get outscored 7-2 by an 8-seeded St. Louis Blues. I don't care if it's just for one game. That is very impressive. The NHL playoffs certainly doesn't get a whole lot of love and attention during the first round, as I was explaining to Glenn. You just can't watch every single hockey and NBA game in the first round because obviously we know there are 16 different series going on, not to mention you have the NFL draft. So, the NHL is not going to get the attention that it rightfully deserves at this particular point. But I will say, very surprised by what I saw with the Winnipeg Jets getting beat 7-2 as the best record in the NHL this regular season. Now, speaking of NBA playoffs, got to start with the Lakers and, of course, the Timberwolves. And I've said this from the very beginning. This is just a really bad matchup for the Lakers. You don't have a rim protector. Jackson Hayes certainly does not qualify as that. You have a Lakers team that relies too heavily on either Luka or LeBron on any given night, and it seems like when one guy gets going, the other guy is just completely in the background. And we saw that again on Friday. LeBron James, 38 points, most points ever for a player 40 years old or older, so it's historically great. The problem was the Lakers, in the last 4 minutes and 37 seconds, I believe, of this game, had just 1 point. 1 point on the road. That's never, ever going to get it done. And what you saw from Minnesota was their ability to lock up, their ability to play airtight defense to where they give you little to no space, where they become basically so much in lockstep with what you're trying to do that they basically know the brand of the shorts that you are wearing. That's how tight they are defensively. And the Lakers could not create any separation. They were getting no easy looks. And so Minnesota goes up in the series in very convincing fashion, 2-1, when they outscored LA 13-1 in the final 4.5 minutes. And Anthony Edwards, I don't know why you allow him to have one-on-one coverage, but that's how the Lakers decided to play him. He was making clutch three after clutch three. And then we saw the ultimate dagger to Jaden McDaniels from Anthony Ant-Man Edwards, who had the game-sealing victory shot with that three-pointer from the wing, a career-high 30 points from Jaden McDaniels. Again, Timberwolves are long, they're athletic, they get up in your grill on defense. They're just not a good matchup for LA. So as great as they had a regular season being 50 wins with a first-year head coach, and it is something to brag about if you're J.J. Redick, I'll give him credit for that, this is just the wrong matchup for the purple and gold. And, Austin Reeves, he's got to be more relevant when it comes to the second half. Luka Doncic, he did not play well at all. I understand he was dealing with an illness, but, you're out there. You still got to perform. You're still expected to be one of the better players on the floor, and he just was not on Friday. So it's a wasted effort for LeBron James and his 38-point performance, 10 rebounds, but you'd like to see him be more aggressive, and you'd like to see more play design for him in the final stretches of this game. It was very disappointing if you're LA, because this was anyone's game with about 4.5 minutes left, right? The game was tied at that point, and then Minnesota just completely ran away with it. And you elected to fire your head coach in Darvin Ham, who got you to the Western Conference Finals, and you're number one. And it won't be a good look if you fire him for J.J. Redick and you're getting ousted in the first round, especially when for the first time in 5 years you have home court advantage in a first-round playoff matchup. So I really like what I'm seeing from Minnesota. You love the swag from Anthony Edwards. He's someone that does not mince words. He's someone that does not back down. I guess that works in the NBA and not the NFL. Otherwise, we would have seen Shedeur get drafted in the first 2 days of the NFL draft. Now, you want to talk about bounce to your step. You want to talk about swagger. You want to talk about setting the tone. Anthony Edwards always seems to do that for the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's going to be a fascinating matchup if they are able to get through and play the Golden State Warriors, because that's going to be very entertaining, because you have Anthony Edwards versus potentially Jimmy Butler, and both of those guys remind me so much of each other. And then you got Steph Curry, the three-point assassin that he is, and then Anthony Edwards, who's the three-point assassin that he is. But again, the playoffs, it's all about matchups, and this just does not favor the Lakers, who are an older team who do a lot better when it comes to playing teams that are not as big, and that obviously does not qualify for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the other thing, and I know Mike Conley Jr. referenced this, right before the game, Minnesota has to take care of the basketball. They did not take care of the basketball at all in game number 2. Well, they had 8 turnovers. The Lakers had 16. That was a huge difference. The other difference, and this is where Minnesota's at its best, we all understand Anthony Edwards is an all-time great scorer already. Yes, I know he's 23 years old. You can put him in that conversation already. There are 3 guys in NBA history to score 9,000 points as fast as Anthony Edwards did. Obviously, he's one of them. The 2 guys that he joins is LeBron and, of course, Kevin Durant. That's the category that he finds himself in terms of being a lethal scorer. The difference with the Timberwolves is when he is looking not just for his shot, but other guys' shot, that's when they're at their best. He had 8 assists in this particular win. He had 9 assists in their Game 1 win. He had 0 assists in their Game 2 loss. So that is the difference for Minnesota. If they want to take that next level and truly be contenders, Anthony Edwards has to not just be a lethal shooter, but he has to be a facilitator and make others' guys' lives easier. And he certainly did that on Friday. And there's a reason why, without question, you watch these teams play against each other. The Minnesota Timberwolves, despite being the 6th seed versus LeBron's 3, have to be the favorite coming out. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN. That's 888-710-4476. When you look at the Timberwolves and Lakers series, are you pressing the panic button too? I was pressing it after Game 1. Speaking of panic button, you know J.J. Redick is not going to hit the button. He's probably going to hit a podcast before he hits a red panic button. But you do know he's going to give you his 2 cents about the latest loss. Let's take a listen.
That's what he does. He shoots 10 a game, and he's elite off the dribble. So he just makes it hard. He's obviously very aggressive. And I don't want to oversimplify things, but on the road, especially with this crowd, the turnovers and then the sort of ignition that gets for the building and them scoring off that, and us not being able to sort of deflate the energy in the crowd is big.
Yeah, you certainly couldn't do that because, again, you're the team that's unable to score a single basket in the final 4 minutes and 37 seconds of this game. Chris Finch, he understands that, it's going to be a lot better for Minnesota after having this Game 3 victory. It could have gone any way. And again, the brilliance of LeBron James cannot be undersold here. To go for 38 points, to have 10 boards, to do it in an efficient way. But you would just like to see LeBron be a little bit more assertive and obviously incredibly more productive down the stretch. And because he was not, as was the rest of the Lakers, they now find themselves in a 1-2 hole. Let's hear from the winning coach after this particular playoff game. Here's Chris Finch.
Just a monster. I think this is a career high for him. Couldn't come at a better time. In the flow, everything. He was super aggressive. We found him. I thought he and Julius did an excellent job, setting the tone today. Just being aggressive, playing with a lot of force, and then battling their matchup. Of course, they had the two tough matchups out there, and just fighting and fighting. LeBron had a heck of a game going, and Julius just kept battling him, and we got him to miss at the right time down the stretch. Fortunately for us.
Yeah, you don't see many shots from LeBron go off the side of the basket, but that's exactly what happened on Friday. And then credit Julius Randle, man, not just with his ability as an offensive scorer, but his ability to have the all-around game that he does, but also the defense that he was playing. You see that buy-in from him. And the Minnesota Timberwolves calling card has not been the slam-dunking ability and majestic nature of Anthony Edwards or even the swag and bounce to his step. It's the defense they play as a team. It's the Nickeil Alexander-Walkers of the world. It's the Jaden McDaniels. It's the Naz Reids. It's how they lock down. I think the Lakers, if memory serves me correctly, I'm pretty sure that they had just 46 second-half points. That's called getting it done as a defense. When you can hold a team with Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves to just 46 second-half points, but it does speak to the mentality and the absolute commitment to the winning side of the floor in the NBA playoffs, which is defense, and not enough credit can go to Chris Finch for that. It's a miracle when you actually don't fire your head coach in the middle of the season. Good things tend to happen. You look at the Nuggets, they're down 1-2. You look at, obviously, the Grizzlies, they're about to get swept. Maybe there's something to be said about sticking with your coach for the entirety of the season and seeing how it plays out. And I don't know, maybe you should be doing that even more if they're the most successful coach in franchise history. That, of course, being, an individual like Michael Malone for Denver or Taylor Jenkins for the Grizzlies. And I'm not saying Chris Finch is the most successful Timberwolves coach in the history of that franchise. That title, I believe, belongs to Flip Saunders. But I do know this. There were some murmurs and there was some narrative that maybe Chris Finch ain't the right guy for this team, given the fact that they're coming off of a Western Conference Finals appearance, and they basically show up flat the next season. Well, they stuck with him. They end up winning 17 of their last 21 and find themselves 2 games away from getting to the second round of the playoffs, when some people felt like at one point they would be in the playoff game. Maybe there is a rhyme and reason to sticking with a head coach that has had success for you in years past. Hi, Denver. Hi, Memphis. You wouldn't know that if it hit you in the face. Let's get back to the busy phone lines, 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. We're talking a lot about the NFL draft, certainly the fall and the ultimate plummet of Shedeur Sanders. But my question to you is, when you look at the NBA playoffs, more specifically the Lakers, I believe their season is going to be over in about 4-5 days from now. And it doesn't do them any favors that they have to get up for another game a day and a half later. The schedulers did not do them any favors with game number 4. I believe the Lakers are done. What say you? Again, number to get aboard, 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. Let's get to a friend of the show. I know he certainly wants to weigh in on Shedeur Sanders. I saw that on social media. Tommy, good morning, brother. How you doing? What you got for us, sir?
Como se va, Dave? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. How are you, Tommy?
Hey, listen, I have my phone one way. If I flip it this way, does it sound any better?
Yeah, you always. I never have an issue hearing you though. You always sound good on the phone.
Okay, cool. Hey, welcome Stephanie to the breakfast, whatever this is.
Yeah, she's right. Well, she's been with us before, but she's doing a very good job per usual. She's doing it, and she's good on the air. I remember Barry. Great. I remember Barry from Boston. Remember Barry introducing you before I even got to? You remember that?
Yeah, I do. He
Yeah,
did a great job
dude. Yeah,
introducing
that
me.
was crazy, man.
That was crazy.
Well, everybody on the chat wants to see what Stephanie looks like because they're all freaks and weirdos.
No, let's not put any extra pressure on Stephanie. If Stephanie wants to make an appearance and come in here and wave hi, and Stephanie, you are more than welcome to do that. That is your call. Do not feel pressured by anyone else to do that. Yeah.
I get the impression Stephanie can handle herself based on her last name alone. I mean, she's Italian, right? So forget about it, right? Right.
She can handle herself. I didn't even have to know her last name to know she can handle herself in any situation.
All right, anyway, a major topic on the chat, David. What is your shirt stand for? What is that? What is it?
Can we move on, Tommy? I mean. Listen.
No. Look.
I mean,
all right, fine. You won't answer that. Okay,
is it
fine.
really? It's a panda. Listen, here's the thing. Okay.
Well, what does it stand for, dude?
It's just a shirt that I got from a family member. I didn't ask what it stood for. It was a nice black shirt. It accentuates my biceps. I'm a strong guy, at least I think I am. And so I was going with that, you know. And for some reason,
why in a panda on your shirt? What does it mean?
I don't know. I'm not gonna lie to you. I have no idea what it means. Maybe I should get Andrea, the astrologer, to tell me the importance of what it means to wear a panda.
Well, it doesn't say Uranus on the shirt. That's for damn sure.
No, okay. I just quickly Googled it. Pandas stand for, and they're associated with peace, friendship, and goodwill. So I'd like to think in my life, this is something that I stand for, and I believe it's crucial when it comes to any semblance of conversation efforts. So I hope that answers your question.
I think we would all agree that you stand for peace and love and all of those things.
Yes, unless it comes to Doug Gottlieb or J.J. Redick's coaching career.
This is true because they're both punk-ass Ds. That's right, yes. Anyway.
They're
David,
both divas.
David,
yeah, I agree.
No, look, you're going to make me say something bad. Anyway, all right, back to the show. I'm gonna read you a list of names, David. Okay, and I'm gonna ask you what they have in common. Are you ready?
Ready.
Raheem Morris, Zach Taylor, Sean Payton, Dan Campbell, Matt LaFleur.
Yep.
D'Amico Ryans, Jim Harbaugh, Kevin O'Connell, Mike Vrabel, Kellen Moore, Aaron Glenn, and Todd Bowles.
Well, the simple answer is I was going to say at first they've all won a playoff game, but Kevin O'Connell has not done so.
No, they're all currently NFL coaches.
I get that commonality. Yes, Tommy, that was the no-brainer.
All of those men who played the game of football and are now head coaches passed on Shedeur Sanders. Not because he's Shedeur Sanders, it's because he's not a good football player.
Stephanie, can you please play? Can you please play the sound for Tommy once again, and for our other members of our listening audience that didn't hear this in the first hour? This is Sean Payton talking about teams going in a different direction than Shedeur Sanders. Let's take a listen. Let's take a listen.
Okay, yeah, I'm listening.
I know, Tommy. I know you are.
This thing is
okay. All right, I got it. Good joke.
Come
on. Listen, hold on.
And beware, because this guy's going to play in this league.
All right, Tom, you were being disrespectful to Sean Payton. We're trying to play you the clip, and you're talking over it. Stephanie, please play it one more time.
This thing is it's surprising. It's like there'll be this chip on his shoulder, and beware, because this guy's going to play in this league.
Okay, Tommy. Was this the same guy that threw Nathaniel Hackett under the bus 2 years ago when he got to Denver? Yes, he was. So he's not gonna just say something because it sounds good in the press, or because it's gonna make him feel better because he's honoring the quote unquote fraternity of football. I've never to this day seen, and this is why it's part of the reason why I dislike him. I can't argue his success, and you know it as well as anyone in New Orleans. But
I know.
He came out and basically completely raked a member of his coaching profession over the coals. You don't do that. So for him to come out, when he really has no significant relationship with Deion Sanders or Shedeur, for him to say, this wasn't right that happened, this was a mistake, he's saying it. This is an NFL head coach, this is a Super Bowl champion. The guy you just mentioned that did not draft him. Now, of course he didn't draft him because in his particular situation, you have a really successful up-and-coming second-year quarterback in Bo Nix. You don't want to do anything to temper that nor mess with that kind of chemistry and that juju, right? You want to make sure that, Bo Nix feels very secure in that position. You don't go and draft someone that finished 8th in the Heisman right behind you. So we have to be honest about every single opinion here, and we also have to be very fair to Shedeur. He said something at the NFL Combine, which apparently rubbed some people the wrong way. This is the one thing that I think works against him when he said, if you draft me, I'm going to change your culture. And I have no issue with that. I think it's full of bravado, but that's him. That's Shedeur Sanders for you. But I just want to be fair and let you know that Super Bowl champion head coaches, Sean Payton, and it could have been a second if pass interference is called against the Rams. Sorry to bring that up, Tommy.
Okay, that's all right.
Okay, he's telling you from the horse's mouth, that Shedeur Sanders got wronged in this NFL draft.
Okay, that's fair, David. That's true. But you picked one guy out of the 10 I named. Okay, Sean Payton said a lot of things. Okay, he told Goodell to go F himself a couple of times. You saw where that got him. Right?
I'm gonna try to text one of these coaches if I have one of their numbers and say, hey, we got a good friend of the show, Tommy in New Orleans.
David, is that Sanders is a good kid. He's a nice kid. He is not QB1. He's not QB2. He's not QB3. The market has spoken, and it's nothing to do with race. It's nothing to do with his bad. Nothing. It's just that he's not a QB1. He's not a QB2. He's not a QB3. And you throw in the fact that the dude built a freaking draft room for himself.
Tommy, you were watching football in 1994, right?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me the best quarterback from that NFL draft class. And I know I'm putting you on the
Doug
spot.
Flutie. I have no idea.
Okay. Fair enough. Now, if that was a decade ago, from 1994, that answer would apply. Okay. Let me tell you who the best. Let me tell you who the best quarterback from that draft class was. He wasn't drafted. That's your hint. So the market spoke loud and clear in 1994 that he was an NFL caliber quarterback.
I don't know, Tom Brady?
No, Brady's 2000. Kurt Warner was not drafted in any round in 1994.
But, dude, come on.
Well, you're telling me. Well, the market says he wasn't draftable. Well, they said that about Warren Moon. They said that about Kurt Warner. They said that about Jeff Garcia. They said that about Tony Romo. And I understand Tony Romo's not going to be confused for Troy Aikman or Roger Staubach anytime soon, but he was a legit franchise quarterback for 10-plus years at the NFL level, and if not for...
And you're right, David, but all of those dudes are like classic drop-back quarterbacks. That's not Shedeur Sanders.
Romo's not a classic drop-back quarterback. He's not at all a classic drop-back quarterback. Come on.
Let me tell you, David, here's the deal, dude. I got two words for Shedeur Sanders, and those two words are Travis Hunter Jr. His night was over when that dude was drafted way ahead of him, bro, because that is a football player that people want. People don't want that in their locker room. A guy who does that. It's the nature of things.
Tommy, I don't believe it's race related. To your point, I do believe. I do believe with every fiber of my being that if he was not Deion Sanders' son and all the hoopla and attention that comes with that, and the celebrity that obviously you get anointed with when you're part of that family. We talk about the Manning family all the time in terms of being the first family of football. Well, the Sanders family, they're pretty damn popular too. I don't see
100%.
Okay, you want to talk about making commercials? The second most popular commercial making family when it comes to football, the Sanders family. Okay, now with all that being said, if Deion Sanders didn't open up his mouth, and I don't say that in a disrespectful manner because I respect Coach Prime. He's come on the network. We understand the significance of who he is.
I hear what you're saying.
But him coming out and saying, these are the two most important people from the draft class of 2025, Travis and Shedeur. When he made that claim, that put a target on his son's back, in my opinion. But you can't tell me, based on what Shedeur did in his final year at Colorado, based on the talent alone, that's not a quarterback that is significantly worthy of being a first-round draft pick, especially a quarterback being drafted in the first 2 days of the NFL draft, being rounds 2 and 3. There's no question in my mind this is going to come back to bite NFL GMs.
Every NFL team told you that exact thing. I don't have to tell you that.
No, you don't have to tell me that. But what I'm telling you is all 32 teams can do whatever they want to do. But you, again, if you're the Chiefs, if you're the Broncos, if you're Washington, there's instances where it does make sense where you don't draft Shedeur, right? If you're New England, it makes sense why you don't draft Shedeur. You don't want to put that upon Drake May. So when you say all 32 teams, I just want to be careful with when we say all 32 teams. There's only 10, 15 teams that were in a position to really draft Shedeur. And Tommy, there's a reason why those 10 and 15 teams are drafting where they are. And there's a reason why they don't have a quarterback position. And listen, you want to talk about the Steelers, they completely flubbed that situation last year. They don't know what the hell they're doing at the quarterback position.
David, I was as shocked as anybody that the Steelers did not take him.
Same.
When he
And the Saints.
When he passed them, I was like, there's no way, because I knew the Saints weren't going to take him. There's no way. So.
And the Saints, it makes no sense to me. The Giants as well. I mean, listen, Jackson Dart's good. He didn't have the year that Shedeur Sanders had. So I know he had some good times at Ole Miss, but he didn't have the year that Shedeur had. But Tommy, this was an entertaining phone call, as always, my friend. You continue to be well. Continue
David,
to be blessed. We'll talk soon.
And God bless the people in the chat. Easy MFE. I see you over there, brother. I'm coming for you.
Thanks.
I'm out.
Thanks, Tommy. Always good to hear from you in New Orleans. Number to get aboard, 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. You know, look, it is a shame when you talk about this draft class because, you know, you do have incredible stories like Travis Hunter. Tommy alluded to that. You know, you do talk about Cam Ward, the number 1 overall pick. You know, you talk about individuals that are really going to make a difference for their team. And this is going to be known as the draft class in which Shedeur Sanders was completely glossed over and overlooked. But you look at the stars, you know, in this draft class, man, there's plenty. Now, yes, no one is going to argue that this is a great quarterback class. Obviously, Jackson Dart being the second best quarterback, and he was taken with a few picks left in the first round. We saw 6 quarterbacks get taken with the first 12 picks in 2024. So no one's going to say it's going to be the class of 83 in terms of quarterback play. But this does have a lot of talent. You talk about individuals like Abdul Carter. There's just really so many to choose from when you talk about this NFL draft class. But this is going to go down as the draft class where the NFL said no to Shedeur Sanders, at least for the first 3 rounds. So I can't wait to see how this unfolds. And he's going to be able to go to a team that is going to be ready-made to win. And that's the benefit you have if you are Shedeur Sanders. It's why Brock Purdy, being the last overall pick in 2022, was in the most gifted situation he could be in because he went to a ready, tailor-made team. That's only going to help Shedeur Sanders. Number to get aboard, 888-710-4ISN. That's 888-710-4476. I know a lot of people still want to weigh in on Shedeur and the NFL draft. We're taking all your calls. And I also want to give some credit to the Magic. And not the magic of the NFL draft, but Orlando. They did something very special on Friday. What that is, we'll get to that next. This is The Good Shepherd on the Infinity Sports Network. You can always follow me at Shep On Air on any social media website, whether it be Twitter, whether it be Instagram. You can always hit us up in our YouTube chat on the Infinity Sports Network page as well. We're coming right back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Chef, man, he like the smoothest dude in America, man. I like dude, man. Cool dude, man.
This is the Good Shepherd.
It is the Good Shepherd. Welcome back, everybody. David Shepard on the Infinity Sports Network. Is this Taylor Swift?
Of course it is.
Stephanie, she's really good. I'm not trying to like downplay her career or put any kind of water on it. And what she does with her tours and the amount of money she gives back towards venue workers and stadium workers and what she does for families that doesn't even get brought up in the general public. Like I think she's a brand all to herself that is so unique. But I will say from a vocal perspective, she's not one of the greatest singers. She's a great lyricist. There's no question about that. But I don't think she's one of the greatest singers of all time. That's where I'm coming from on Taylor Swift.
I did not think that's where you were going with that, but yeah, sure. I was going to be like, fine, it's the last one I'll play, I promise. Also, it is literally the last option I have, so
oh, really?
we're done.
Okay, fair enough. Well, listen, I mean, Taylor Swift, she's known by a lot of NFL fans these days, I'll tell you that much. Do they get engaged at some point? Is that happening, or why do you think that?
I hope so, but it hasn't happened yet.
What do you make of that?
They're the best couple in the world.
What are they waiting for then?
I don't know. I mean, what's the rush? They're enjoying their lives.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. They are enjoying their lives. I wouldn't mind having the life of Travis Kelce. That's for damn sure. Or Taylor Swift. Speaking of those that are enjoying their lives, the Boston Celtics players, that was the best transition I could think of at the time, are really enjoying their lives being the defending world champions. Jason Tatum coming back from the wrist injury from game number 2, being absent game number 3, putting up 36 points. The problem is a very lack of aggressive Jaylen Brown, finishing with just 14 points, and he had 36 points in game number 2 to carry them. And then how about the Magic defense holding the Boston Celtics to 11 third quarter points, including just 5 from everyone not named Jason Tatum, ultimately holding the Celtics to 34 second half points. That's called getting it done. A lot of people felt like this was going to be a sweep once Jason Tatum returned for game 3. The Magic had other ideas, and you talk about their dynamic duo, the Franz Wagner and obviously Paolo Banchero. They are lethal together, combining for 61 points. And then Wendell Carter Jr. had 8 clutch points in the third quarter. He had more points than Jason Tatum. I did not have Wendell Carter Jr. outscoring Jason Tatum in any quarter in this particular game, but that's what it took for the Magic to ultimately hold on 95-93. I know there were some complaints about the Celtics, about the referees, but you cannot score 11 points in any given quarter in the playoff game and then have anything to complain about. This is, of course, Joe Mazzulla, the Celtics head coach, after the loss, and I guarantee you he wasn't complaining.
I mean, we had 5 fouls, so we waited until the best possible moment to get him in.
Yeah, well, you can tell he's very happy with the performance of the Boston Celtics. Jeez. Let's hear from Jamal Mosley, who I would imagine has a little bit more to say after his latest win, of course, being the Orlando Magic head coach.
This is a group that continues to pull for one another, no matter who's on the floor, no matter who's on the bench. These guys continue to talk to one another about what we needed to do, and it came with the defensive end of the floor. Can we sit down and string a couple stops together? That's what we were talking about in the huddle. Can we string stops together to get out and run and get some easy baskets?
Yeah, I mean, there's no lies told there. Look, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a 2-time NBA champion, once with the Lakers, once with the Nuggets. He can't go 0-4 in 32 minutes of play if the Magic have any shot of winning Game 4, because there is not going to be another quarter in these NBA playoffs where the Celtics manage to just score 11 points. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. Let's get to Pat in Pittsburgh. Pat, I appreciate the patience, man. Go ahead. What you got for us?
Yeah, no problem. First of all, I'm just going to tell you, I'm 64 years old, so I'm a little bit more old school, and some of my stuff will come from the old school era. You described Deion Sanders earlier. I kind of disagree with the way you described him. I think he's his son's worst enemy. I think his son might benefit from not getting drafted, and his son might maybe grow up and say, "Dad, stay away. Let me handle this myself." You mentioned Deion Sanders as being one of the top defensive players ever played in the league, and I have to put Troy Polamalu in front of him.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was. I mean, different types of defensive players. Obviously, Deion Sanders was not a great tackler, right? And Troy Polamalu certainly it was one of the more aggressive secondary players you'll ever find. Now, in terms of overall impact, remember, you could not throw to one side of the football because of Deion Sanders. He was that much of a lockdown corner. So, I personally would have Deion Sanders before Troy Polamalu, but obviously both are defensive legends and first ballot Hall of Famers for a reason.
Totally agree, and that's why they're there. I had a plumbing company for 30-some years.
Oh, good for you.
We described guys like Sanders' son as having luggage. In other words, different guys that were plumbers would travel from company to company, and us bosses would talk, or owners would talk, and we would say, he's got a lot of luggage. So his son's luggage is his dad. I really believe that. And being from Pittsburgh, you think we would have taken him.
Yeah, you would. You would.
Especially with our history of drafting guys that have problems with their mouth.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing about the luggage, okay? Yeah, Shedeur talks a big game. He doesn't shy away from being a Sanders. He doesn't lack confidence. But what issues did he have in college where the immaturity was so glaring that NFL franchises had to stay away? Where was the trouble that he caused? And the answer to both is none.
No, and I agree with that, but I think his biggest problem was the statement that he made. And then I watched another interview with him where he's basically said any team that doesn't pick him is going to pay. Well, whatever team he ends up on didn't pick him 3 times.
Yeah, but he's going to be more concerned about proving the other 31 teams wrong. You want a guy with a chip on their shoulder. Brady had a chip on his shoulder. Look what happened with the Patriots, right? Getting picked 199 overall back in 2000. Here's the thing about Deion Sanders. If you know anything about Deion Sanders, he's the ultimate hype man in sports, okay? He's always going to tell you how he feels. He is always going to be a little bit over the top in his praise. There's a lot of Muhammad Ali in him, and what I mean by that is he's a natural-born entertainer. He is a natural-born entertainer, so you know that's expected with Deion Sanders. But I'll tell you what, he did win 9 games at Buffalo in year number 2. He did win pretty much right away at Jackson State, and he did win right away at Colorado, even in that first season when they were 4-0, and then they just collapsed the rest of the way. But the truth,
which was kind of weird.
Yeah, well, that loss against Stanford didn't do them any favors. But when you talk about Deion Sanders, that bravado, that level of confidence, that swag is what has fueled Shedeur Sanders for this long too. So I wouldn't mind having that luggage because I know it's going to be successful on any plane, any airline that he walks onto, because that luggage got Shedeur to be the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. It got him to be one of the most historically accurate passes in the history of college football.
I mean, I'm just going to put the Steelers out there. I'm going to throw them under the bus. Look how many guys in the last, 8-9 years they picked up with attitudes like that. They weren't able to change them. Even the great Tomlin, who I really don't like, wasn't able to change them. And what did they do? They became laughing stocks, most of them. I thought the Steelers were going to get rid of Pickens whenever they picked up, what's his name?
Yeah, DK Metcalf.
And they didn't.
Yeah. No, it's a fair point, Pat. You bring up some good points, man. It was good talking to you, man. I appreciate you waiting on hold for as long as you did. And I appreciate you coming on with us.
Real quick, I can listen to a lot of people, but I like the show, and that's a lot coming from me. Without meeting you and being around you in person, I can honestly say I like you.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks for the kind words, man. Call back anytime, sir. And then you have a good rest of your Saturday morning. And I would be shocked if Shedeur Sanders does not get drafted on Saturday. I think it's going to happen very early. I just think there's going to be too much chatter and there's going to be too much conversation of we can't let someone this gifted go this late in the draft. We have to take advantage of what's in front of us, and we can't let this opportunity squander and fall right through our fingertips. You watch. I have a feeling it's going very early on Saturday. Number to get aboard, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. We get to all your calls on the other side. Before we do anything else, let's get to our latest sports flash here on the Infinity Sports Network with Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
When will Shedeur Sanders get picked? That's the question. Will he get picked? The free fall continues as Sanders did not get his name called through 3 rounds. Tyler Shuck, the third quarterback off the board, 40th pick to the Saints in the second round. Jalen Milroe, 92nd overall to the Seahawks in round 3. Browns went with Dylan Gabriel with the 94th overall selection in the third round. So 5 quarterbacks taken in all, 3 coming after the first round. And Broncos head coach Sean Payton, a little warning for the rest of the league.
This thing is it's surprising. It's like there'll be this chip on his shoulder, and beware, because this guy's going to play in this league.
Meanwhile, in the NBA, the T-Wolves able to pull away late.
Julius will hold. He'll lob it off to Ant. Ant will dribble inside the arc, looking to attack in the lane to the corner. Jaden lines up the 3-ball and hits it! Jaden adds to his career night. He's got 30.
Jaden McDaniels finished with those 30. Anthony Edwards, 29. Julius Randle, 22. T-Wolves erased the Lakers 116-104 for a 2-1 series lead. Call courtesy of the Timberwolves radio network. Rest of scores, Magic withstood the Celtics 95-93, pulled within 2-1 in the series. 32 for Franz Wagner, 29 for Paolo Banchero. Bucks used a 39-18 third quarter, roll the Pacers 117-101. Giannis Antetokounmpo had 37 along with 12 rebounds and 6 assists. Gary Trent Jr. hit 9 of 12 from deep for 37 points, but Indiana still leads the series 2-1. Hockey playoffs, Edmonton scored 4 times in the third. They erased the Kings 7-4, but LA still leads the series 2-1. Montreal doubled the Capitals 6-3. They trailed that series 2-1, and the Devils outlast the Hurricanes in double overtime 3-2, courtesy of a Simone Nemec game winner. Carolina's up 2-1 in the series. Baseball, the Pirates blanked the Dodgers 3-0 behind Paul Skeens, who struck out 9 over 6 in a third. Nationals walked it off on the Mets 5-4, courtesy of a James Wood RBI single. Braves overpowered the Diamondbacks 8-2. Rays silenced the Padres 1-0. Twins ripped the Angels 11-4. A's outlast the White Sox 6-5. Rangers shut down the Giants 2-0. Marlins double up the Mariners 8-4. Reds outscored the Rockies 8-7. It was the Cardinals 3, Brewers 2. Royals blanked the Astros 2-0. Seth Lugo scattered 3 hits with 8 Ks over 8. Blue Jays able to rally by the Yankees 4-2, and the Cubs shut out the Phillies 4-0. I'm Marco Belletti.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Man, Chef, man, he like the smoothest dude in America, man. I like dude, man. Cool dude, man.
This is the Good Shepherd.
No Taylor Swift? Who's this?
This is the Jonas Brothers.
I like the Jonas Brothers. You a fan?
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Stephanie, you've listened to a lot of people comment on Shedeur Sanders. And has that swayed you at all in you believing that he should have been picked and chosen in one of the first 3 rounds? Or do you feel like it's warranted, he doesn't have the talent, he doesn't have the goods of a first, second, or third round pick, and this is exactly what should have happened all along? I don't think your mic's on. There you go.
I clicked the wrong mic.
There you go.
I still think it's warranted. I think that the Saints should have taken that other random guy before him. Probably not. But
Tyler Shuck, yeah.
Yeah, that's his name.
Yeah, I know, right?
But no, I do still think it's warranted. I still stand by that he's not a top pick. And I mean, he'll get picked later today. So,
any other surprises for you about the NFL draft?
Surprises?
Yeah.
I would say Jacksonville trading next year's one is kind of crazy. And then who was it at the end of the draft traded next year's one? No, the Falcons, I think it was, right? They traded next year's one to get back into the end of the draft, and I think that's crazy.
Yeah. I'm with you. This is going to be a weak quarterback class. The interesting thing is going to be the whole conversation next year is going to be Arch Manning. Can he look like that guy he looked like in the 2 games in which he played for Texas in the sophomore campaign? Because that's going to be all the talk next year in terms of the great quarterback class that is going to be. And obviously you're going to have Carson Beck also as one of the individuals that's going to come out in 2026. So next year's class is going to be loaded.
It is. Yep.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited for that. And again, this is only going to be known as the plummet of Shedeur Sanders in 2025. It's not going to be known as Cam Ward getting drafted. It's not going to be, Travis Hunter. It's just, it's a shame, but that's unfortunately where we're at. Let's get to Alex in Miami. Appreciate the patience, Alex. Again, number to get aboard, 888-710-4ISN. That's 888-710-4476. What was your biggest standout of the 2025 NFL Draft?
My biggest standout was obviously that Cam Ward got drafted number 1. He's my UM guy. What can I tell you?
Sure. Well, he deserved it. He was the best quarterback in all of 2024. There's no question about that.
Yeah. The first day of the draft, I was surprised that Shedeur wasn't drafted. The second day of the draft, I was like almost in shock that he wasn't drafted.
I almost felt like it was April 1st, Alex. I felt like I was being punked. I felt like I was being punked. I felt like there was a joke and I wasn't in on it.
Yeah. The thing is that, remember last week when I called you and I told you about Shedeur 1.5, that you had to draft Shedeur, but you also had to draft half of his dad's mouth. And I think that's what's working against him. Not only that, also the fact that he's gonna be talking. If things go well, you're gonna hear nothing but good things about him. But if things don't go the way that he wants things to go, he's gonna open his mouth. And also the fact that a lot of these coaches might be threatened by him, by the fact that if it doesn't go well for them, that he's gonna be next in line for that coaching job.
100%, 100%. Because look, when LeVar Ball would be critical of anyone that would coach his son, you knew that you had to deal with that constant nagging, but you didn't have to deal with the potential of him replacing you as head coach. You do have Deion Sanders, that literally is one of the more notable head coaches in the country, that got a tremendous amount of success with Shedeur Sanders. So if it doesn't go well in year 1, year 2 as a first-round draft pick, and you have Deion Sanders, who's continuing to have success at the college level, who understands Shedeur better than anyone, that certainly is going to be put on the table. But with all that being said, you would have thought that a team with more stability would have taken him as a backup at this point. You know what I mean? Like
the teams that do have stability probably don't want to take him because they don't want him to overshadow the quarterback that they have in place already. Because if let's say Bo Nix has a couple of bad games,
right,
they're already going to be. The fans are already going to go crazy and want to put Shedeur.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, but here's what I'm saying. Like if you're, and I understand they may not necessarily have quarterback needs, but to get someone that good this late in the draft, you gotta pull the trigger on that. Like if I'm Buffalo or Baltimore or Kansas City or a team like Philadelphia or Cincinnati, he's not going to be a threat to any of those quarterbacks. It's not going to even be a conversation. So why not take that flyer as having one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league, knowing that, hey, if it doesn't work out, with my franchise quarterback for whatever reason, in other words, let's say they get hurt, I need someone to sub in. I need someone to be able to make a play, going on a 10-yard fade, for instance. I can count on Shedeur for that. I would have thought that the other teams that do have that stability would have taken a flyer on Shedeur as a backup, or at least the third-string quarterback.
Well, if you're one of those top teams, let's say one of the four horsemen, you can still take him because he's draft capital bait for you in the future.
Yeah, and that's another good point. What you can get for him. Yeah, Alex. Again, I'm shocked. By the way, do you have Miami winning a game in this series?
No. No, I think I think they're going to get swept. To be honest with you.
Yeah. Game 2 was close, though, man. I was impressed with the fight from the Miami Heat. Listen, I didn't think they were getting to the playoffs after getting that 10 seed. So,
they don't belong there. They made it. They barely made it. They don't belong there. They weren't ready to go to the playoffs. You know, they're just not a playoff team right now. You know.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately for them, they had the Hawks and the Bulls standing in their way, which isn't much competition. But we'll see. We'll see what transpires with the Heat. I'm shocked if they don't win at least a game in Miami.
Talking about playoff teams, the Panthers are doing pretty well.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's talking about them in the NHL. The only thing I'm going to say is, to be the man, you got to beat the man.
Yeah, they are obviously the defending Stanley Cup champions, and no one is talking about that, to your point, Alex. Always a pleasure, my friend. Good to hear from you. You enjoy the rest of your Saturday, okay?
All right, Shep. Talk to you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Talk to you tomorrow. Always good to hear from Alex in Miami. Number to get aboard, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. When we get back, we're going to take your calls on everything NFL draft. Because, again, this is not just the fall, but the plummet heard around the world. Shep on the Infinity Sports Network. We're coming right back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Your love lifted me higher than I've ever been lifted before. So keep it up, quench my desire, and I'll be at your side forevermore. You know your love keep on lifting higher, higher and higher.
This is The Good Shepherd.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour number 4 of The Good Shepherd here on the Infinity Sports Network. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. During breaks, I am spending every single second I can trying to understand what the hell just happened with one of the biggest downfalls in NFL draft history with Shedeur Sanders, who was not only considered to be a first-round draft pick, but someone who was in the conversation for the number 1 overall draft pick, has not only got completely glossed over in the first round, but in the second and third round as well. We will now have at least 2 days in which Shedeur Sanders was not drafted. And so I am devouring the internet. I am devouring any NFL sources I may have, and just ask the question that everybody in the sports world is asking right now. How the hell do you explain Shedeur Sanders not being drafted in the first 3 rounds? What is the deal here? This doesn't make any sense. Now, to kind of set it up for you, just know that the Big 12, the conference that he played in, was easily one of the 4 best conferences in the country. He was the offensive player of the year in that conference. He was someone that was, from an accuracy standpoint, he was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in NFL history, completing 75% of his passes. 37 passing touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and you saw, not just on the field, but you even saw on his pro day, the kind of air he gets behind that long ball that he is able to chuck down the field 50 to 60 yards and the accuracy that comes with it. Is he perfect as a quarterback? No. How many quarterbacks coming out of college are? Does he need to work on speeding up the game and not getting sacked and tackled for too many losses? Does he need to work on getting the ball out quicker in terms of having a better delivery? Of course he does. But you look at what he has done in his respective career compared to the other 5 quarterbacks that have already been drafted. The only one you can make an argument for that had a better college career and that ultimately had the trajectory that looked like he would fare better in the NFL is the number 1 overall pick of this draft class, Cam Ward. That's it. Shedeur Sanders, I'm not saying he won at an Ohio State, Oregon type level, but he did go 9-4, and that means something because they struggled a lot in his first year at Colorado, and he turned it around, and he was also great at Jackson State. You talk about a guy that led the Big 12 in passing touchdowns, passing yards, passing completion, passing rating. You don't do that because you're a stiff. You don't do that because you're overhyped. You don't do that because you have a lack of an understanding of what it means to play the quarterback. The guy's really good, and he's gifted, and he's talented, and he's athletic. And yes, he's Deion Sanders' son. That, I believe, will help him in the long run when it comes to the NFL. But here's the other thing that I was thinking. I was looking and researching the NLI money that he makes compared to his peers. Stephanie, if you had to guess, where do you think Shedeur Sanders ranks? I know you love this trivia. Where do you think Shedeur Sanders ranks among the highest paid athletes in all of college sports in 2024, 2025 based on his NIL dealings?
I would say top 15, mostly because I have no idea how much NIL money. Oh, top 10, top 5, number 1.
Number one. He's the highest paid player in the history of college sports. That's what that means. Officially speaking, of course.
That's stupid.
So he's the highest valued athlete in terms of NIL earnings. So this is what I'm getting from the sources that I'm reaching out to. He likes football. He loves celebrity. Buyer beware. Because you can't explain someone with this, and I know you're not as big on him as I am, but you can't explain someone having this level of success, this kind of productivity, and then falling by the wayside during the NFL draft where he's not drafted in the first 2 rounds. You just can't explain it other than the ongoing narrative that continues to build some momentum, which is likes football, loves celebrity. And I think as a quarterback, you have to be the hardest working person for any franchise that you play for. You have to be the first guy in, last guy out. You have to be a gym rat. You have to be practicing 10, 11, 12 in the morning when you may have a game the very next day. That's how committed you are. You have to be in that film room 5, 6, 7 times a week. They're not seeing that in Shedeur. So there's a lot of Kyler Murray here. The difference is Kyler Murray, and similar athletic build, Shedeur's a little bigger. Obviously, Kyler's a little more evasive in terms of escaping the pass rush and whatnot. But you also have the extra pressure of coaching Deion Sanders' kid and the spotlight that comes with. So if you draft him in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, well, he wasn't your franchise draft pick, right? He wasn't the guy you invested everything into. So those are the factors when it comes to Shedeur Sanders being drafted so low. But you look at the opportunities that teams had, whether it be Cleveland, they opt instead to go with Michigan defensive tackle, Mason Graham. The Saints, their struggles at the quarterback position and the unknowns from Derek Carr in 2025 for them to select Texas offensive tackle Calvin Banks. You're just scratching your head. Is the Steelers, obviously, we all know they might have the most compromised quarterback position in the league right now because they don't even know if they're getting Aaron Rodgers. They think they're getting him. We all think they're getting him, but we don't know that for sure. And even if you do, your best option is a soon-to-be 42-year-old quarterback. And within the likes of Jackson Dart, who had a good year, didn't have anything close to the year that Shedeur Sanders has, he would picked in the 1st round. Then you have 3 other quarterbacks get picked. So it makes no sense. But this is what you got to like if you're Shedeur. His attitude, his ability to deal with the setback, and he's taken the high road. This is courtesy of his brother's Twitch account when he talks about not getting drafted, not just in the first day, but in both days.
God don't make mistakes. We got faith in God no matter what. Whatever it is, bro, we're not worried about nothing.
He shouldn't be worried about anything because I believe this is going to go down as one of the biggest omissions and disrespectful acts in NFL draft history. And Stefan, when you think of names who cover the NFL draft, who's the first person you think of?
Just like in general?
Yeah. Who would you say is the godfather of the NFL draft, who's still doing it strong to this day?
Like making mock drafts?
Making mock drafts, covering it, analyzing it, being correct in that analyzation.
All right. I don't follow mock drafts that much. I go with Mark Sessler.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. So that kind of backfired. All right. So the guy I was thinking.
I know you're hoping for Mel Kiper.
I really was. I was like, give me it, please. But that's okay. I appreciate the honesty. So Mel Kiper Jr. had him as the best quarterback available. Not now, in the entire draft. Before Cam Ward was selected by the Tennessee Titans, he had Shedeur Sanders as the number 1 quarterback in this draft. Now, you can say a lot about Mel Kiper Jr. You can make jokes that he's in the pockets of certain NFL franchises and certain NFL agents. That's something that he's heard before. I'm not saying it, but I've heard that been said about him. But you can't do something at a high level for 40 years and be a fraud. You can't do something that long and have little idea of what you're doing. He knows what the hell he's talking about.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. For him to have Shedeur as the number 1 quarterback coming out of this year's NFL draft, and for 5 quarterbacks to get chosen ahead of him, when honestly, like, can to this right at this moment, we've talked about him enough. Can you still identify Tyler Shough? Do you still, if I gave you a lineup of 2 quarterbacks, would you be able to make the determination that that's Tyler Shough?
Probably, because I'm sure I'd recognize the other one.
Okay, that's a good answer. Can you tell me? I'm going to put you on the spot for 1 second here again. Can you tell me where he played?
Oh, Louisville.
That's impressive. See, I don't know how many people would be able to do that right now. Even when he gets drafted, like, you know, obviously we know Jalen Milroe, but his middle name was inconsistent in 2024. You talk about an individual like Jackson Dart, obviously getting drafted by the Giants, but Dylan Gabriel, like, what skill set did he have outside of playing in a great system? What skill set did he have? I know he only lost 1 game, and that 1 game was the ultimate loss because they got shellacked by Ohio State in the college football playoff. But what do those guys have that Shedeur Sanders does not have? Because Shedeur has the talent that those guys have on their best day. And I think this is a colossal mistake when you talk about franchises that needed a quarterback desperately. Cleveland comes to mind. They need a quarterback in the worst way. They actually got rid of the 1 quarterback that could have brought them to the promised land. So I just think this is really unfair. It's a young man that got put in a really tough position. But character, and I know this gets said all the time, character is what you do when you get doubted. It's how you handle yourself when another person or a group of people fail to see your value. Because just because others fail to see it doesn't make that value any less significant. And the NFL, they just absolutely gave the wrong bulletin board and the wrong motivation to the right guy. Because Shedeur, he's heard it all. When you're the kid of Deion Sanders, you hear growing up all the time how you're just a product of Neon Deion. How, because your dad's prime time, that's why you were thrusted into the spotlight. That's why you have the success that you do. So he's already got to fight that off. And I don't remember the same kind of dialogue and conversation when it came to the Manning boys, that being Peyton and Eli, with their star father being Archie, back in his days with the Saints in the 60s and 70s. So, Stephanie, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have something else that you wanted to say? And please feel free to add anything to what I just said.
No, I think that covered it all.
I could have sworn you had something else to say.
I don't remember what it was going to be, though.
Okay, fair enough. That's fair enough. Have I changed your mind at all about Shedeur Sanders and how there's a little bit too much backlash and pushback against him when it seems like we're only trying to find his flaws and his negatives, and we're not really honing in and focusing on the positives? Have I sold you at all on that?
No, I'm sorry. I still think that he shouldn't have been. The only reason I find it crazy that he was not drafted early.
I knew you had something more to say.
I did. Okay, it's because the Steelers have no quarterback. So to me, that would have been the only logical spot for him.
Do the Saints?
I mean,
even if he's healthy,
kind of.
Even if he's healthy, what is Derek Carr doing for you?
I would rather Derek Carr over Shedeur
in 2025. Sure. But if you're telling me the next 5 years you have Shedeur or you have Derek Carr, who are you taking?
I don't know. I mean, in the next 5 years, probably not the guy that's old.
But here's the thing: like, Matthew Stafford's old, but I'm still going to take 2-3 years of Matthew Stafford, right? He's old.
Over who?
Over Shedeur Sanders.
Oh yeah,
I'm taking Matt, but I don't think Matthew Stafford's playing another 5 years.
No.
But I'm taking the first half of that. And saying, based on those 2-3 years, based on how he looked, even in last year's NFC division round matchup, they gave the Eagles the biggest challenge of anyone, and that was prominently because of Matthew Stafford. I think Matthew Stafford can still play at a very high level. I don't think Derek Carr can play at any level except for mediocrity. tell me about the Giants. Who do they have right now on that roster, in that quarterback room? And I love Jameis. I like Russ. I don't love him, but I like Russ. I love Jameis as people. You tell me, what quarterback is going to be making the difference for the New York Giants next year?
Jackson Dart.
Okay, so you like Jackson. That's a fair point. All right, you like Jackson Dart. Okay, I cannot wait to revisit this conversation when these rookie years are done.
Me too.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Now you were very kind. In my ear, right before we got back on, you said make sure to get to this person first because they've been waiting forever. So I want to do that. I can't believe there's never mind. Let's get to Eddie in Houston. Eddie, thank you for the patience. I know Stephanie really wanted to make sure that we get to you, man. So the floor is yours, my friend. How you doing, and what you got for us on this NFL draft? What was your biggest takeaway?
Hey there. Yeah, I want to agree with you. It's 100%. Shedeur is undrafted right now because of who his father is. I don't care what anyone says. That's a God's honest fact. But the problem is, I don't see, you've got some sort of disconnect. Oh, and let me say this about Mel Kiper. That dude's lost his fastball. Daniel Jeremiah, I think, is pretty much considered one of the best, or if not the best talent evaluator right now.
He's up there too.
Yeah, I think you're overplaying Shedeur, and so does he, because he only had Shedeur as the 20th second best quarterback, but the 20th best talent of this draft.
Eddie, so that would infer that he's at least picked in the middle of the first round. Like, and I know I saw Daniel Jeremiah on the NFL Network, and I saw them talking about Joe Klatt, and they were saying the same thing that you and I are saying, that the reputation and the surname of Sanders outweighs the talent and productivity for a lot of general managers. And so he didn't get picked this low, which hopefully is no lower than the fourth round, but he didn't get picked this low because of his on-field talent and ability, but it's because of the other things, right? And that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
because
there's a saying.
Yeah, go ahead, Eddie.
Below the neck gets you in the league. Above the neck keeps you in the league. And the problem with Shedeur is his dad. I think it's the bravado of the Sanders in their name and just being part of that family. You're thinking that's going to propel him through bumps in the roads. Myself and every other GM apparently thinks that it won't, that it's going to be a hindrance. If there's a problem, Dion will be the worst helicopter dad in the world. First, he'll go up and he'll talk to the head coach, and then maybe he'll go talk to the GM. And if that doesn't work, he'll go talk to the owner. And then if that doesn't work, he'll find a microphone. So that's the problem. If it doesn't go the way that Shedeur and Dion think, NFL teams hate almost as much losing. They hate distractions almost as much.
So Eddie, you're making some great points. I want to ask you a question though, because you're giving a lot of credence to NFL organizations and teams. So I just want you to look back on 2024. Bears have an opportunity to do this again. Who they taking? Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels?
Jaden Daniels, obviously.
It's not even close, right? It is such a colossal difference between those two quarterbacks in year one. It's obvious. Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud?
CJ.
It's not even close, right? But we obviously know the direction the Panthers went in. Look at 2022. There was one quarterback drafted in the first round. I didn't even know if that quarterback would be considered a good backup these days. You know what I'm talking about?
No, it's escaping me.
Kenny Pickett. So my point is, these NFL teams, and there are a lot of them. I just gave you 3 different examples. The Bears, the Panthers, the Steelers. If I even go back to 2021, the second overall pick was who in that draft? After Trevor Lawrence. I'll give you a hint. He's more known for the mom than he is for his actual play on the field these days.
This is escaping me too. I'm sorry.
Zach Wilson. Okay?
Oh God.
And then who was the third overall pick in that draft that now he can't even play even as a backup in the NFL? He was the third overall pick in that draft. Trey Lance.
Who?
Trey Lance.
Trey Lance, yeah.
Okay, so 49ers, Jets, Bears, Panthers, Steelers. Not all of them are laughingstocks. Jets, yes, but not the other 4. All 5 of those franchises have made horrendous decisions in drafting the quarterbacks they did as high as they did. So I don't look at this and say, this has to be Shedor's problem. This has to be a Shedor issue.
But it is.
No,
but it is because when he talks about going into an organization and that he's going to change a culture of the team, that's what teams don't want.
But there needs culture changing. If I'm the Cleveland Browns and I've won one playoff game in the last 30 years, or I'm the Tennessee Titans and I've averaged 5 wins in the last 3 seasons, I want to hear that. I would want to hear that.
Yeah, but who is he to be the one to decide what the culture should be? He's a kid.
Because we all know
and no
it.
coach like Aaron Glenn going to the Jets. Do you think Aaron Glenn would want Shedeur? Aaron Glenn and every other team are trying to establish a culture. You talked about, well, why don't the best 4 teams in football take him? Because on those teams, part of the reason that they are successful is because they've already established a culture. Even somebody like Pittsburgh who has had limited success.
I agree. But here's the point. But he's not. But here's the thing. He's not a kid. He's a top 10. He's not a kid. No, he's not. A kid is someone who I believe is out there, on the street, having pamphlets, having merchandise, looking for autographs. Shedeur Sanders and I'm going to be honest with you, Eddie. I don't know your salary. I know my salary. I hope this is not the case. But Shedeur Sanders made more money than I can even dream of in 1 year as a quote-unquote kid with the amount of revenue he was able to generate with not just his marketability, but his play on the field. When you're making $6+ million and you are representing, and you are the face along with your dad, but you are part of that, face of that organization, that being the Colorado Buffaloes, and you were so good that there was legit conversation that when it came to the Heisman Trophy winner and Travis Hunter, you were just as important to that team's success. That is not a kid. Now, he's young. Now, he hasn't done anything at the NFL level. I grant you that. But let's be fair. You can't call him a kid.
He's someone who is inexperienced. When I say kid, I mean someone who is inexperienced in life.
But
and someone who is making millions of dollars at a college who's put up on a pedestal all the time. Do you think he has had anything close to a real life experience? I
can't speak to every life experience that comes with him. What I do know is this: he knows what it is like to be in rarefied air, where basically every move he makes is followed, watched, digested, and discussed because of his last name and because of the success.
But that doesn't mean he's mature.
It does. Wait. No, it does. It does because he understands what it means to deal with expectations, and he does understand what it means to be an official.
I mean, he hasn't gotten in trouble.
Because I've covered him on a consistent basis nationally for the last 3 years, where I've talked about this guy pretty much every month. Every month I've talked about him because he's that big of a deal. He generates that kind of interest. He garners that kind of revenue. I saw what he did at Jackson State when he was unbelievable there.
But that's why teams don't want him. I don't understand how you don't understand.
I understand what you're saying.
Teams don't want a big deal. They don't want a big deal like that.
They wait a minute. They want someone that's going to shout out to Scott Farrell for this. Shake it up. They want Shedeur Sanders. I know you don't get that reference at all, Stephanie. But one day you will. I promise. They want him to shake things up. They want him to rock the boat. If you're Tennessee, you cannot be happy at all with these last 3 seasons. You can't be.
No, you have coaches and GMs to establish cultures, not some 22-year-old person with no life experience.
Job of it. And they're doing a terrible job of it. If you're the Jets.
But that's why teams get new coaches and new GMs.
Yeah, and how's that working out for the Jets?
Why do you want a 22-year-old kid who has no life experience coming into a billion-dollar organization to establish the culture, his culture over a GM and a head coach's culture?
You're minimizing someone's life experience at 22 years old. There are people that are 22 years old that have fought and served this country for 4 years. I know every circumstance is different.
Okay, we're not talking about that.
I understand that.
I'm talking about him specifically.
Eddie, when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, to your point, and I'm using your words, all that spotlight, all that attention, he's a target, and I can't think of one misstep. I can't think of one major misstep. That's someone I would want representing my franchise. And if he's a little too cocky, You know what? I want someone like that. You can say whatever you want about Baker Mayfield. Baker was cocky as hell coming into the NFL. And you know what? He won Cleveland a playoff game for the first time in nearly 30 years. And then Cleveland basically wiped their hands with him and said, we're going to go with the guy that likes massages more than football. And maybe that's going to be what brings this franchise to the even better level. And obviously we know it backfired. But the point is...
It's just with Dion. It's just with Dion that if there are any bumps in the road, he will be there. He will be the distraction. And teams don't want that.
Yeah, we disagree.
Like I said.
Yeah, Eddie, we had a very spirited conversation there. I appreciate the phone call.
Thank you.
And seriously, man, good
Yes,
conversation and good going back and forth with you, man. Thanks for your patience again, man. Look, the reality is we got to be fair to Deion Sanders, man. Like, everyone keeps saying this is going to be a helicopter parent at the NFL level with his son. This is going to be an individual that's going to kind of, maneuver around the coaching decisions and make himself front and center for why he could be a potential candidate to replace anyone that coaches Shedeur if they're not having success. But we're talking about things that haven't happened. We don't know that. Could Deion Sanders have taken an NFL job already as a head coach? Yeah. Could he have gotten that head coaching job in Dallas over Brian Schottenheimer? Hell yes. So I don't want to hear that Deion Sanders is all about distraction and all about making it hard for his son. Now, he put its target on his son's back by saying that him and Travis were going to be the best, and most impactful players out of the 2025 draft class. I thought that was a little unfair. But I'm not blaming Deion. Did he have something to do with his son being drafted as low as he's going to end up being drafted? Of course he did. But I'm not blaming Deion for that. And I don't see him being a problem and headache at the next level because he's been there, done that. And he understands what it means to kind of let a team be that team and not interfere as a very, very prominent celebrity. Deion Sanders doesn't need to be doing that. He only wants the best for his son. I truly believe that. And so he's going to be smart enough to be able to back off and let Shedeur go through his lumps and growing pains as an NFL player with his team, with his coaching staff, and not over-involve himself and interfere. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. Man, I'm getting excited about this draft, but we all know the main takeaway is the plummet of Shedeur Sanders. We're taking your calls on all of that when we get back. This is The Good Shepherd on the Infinity Sports Network. We're coming right back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Man, Chef, man, he like the smoothest dude in America, man. I like dude, man. Cool dude, man.
This is the Good Shepherd.
Welcome back, everybody. David Shepard on the Infinity Sports Network. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. I know we have not talked at all about Shedeur Sanders on this particular Saturday edition of the Good Shepherd. That obviously is the joke of the show. Not Shedeur Sanders, just me referencing that. Look, the reality is a lot of people have different theories about why Shedeur Sanders continues to get glossed over, continues to get omitted, continues to get disrespected. But the truth of the matter is, this will only serve Shedeur Sanders in the long run, because the greatest teacher in life is coming up short and falling short and not getting what you want, because you develop different gears and you develop different parts of yourself when you do, quote unquote, come up short and don't get what you believe you deserve and don't get what you believe you've earned. So this could be the ultimate tipping point for Shedeur of taking his work ethic, taking his level of professionalism to a whole nother level. And I know I referenced the chat an awful lot, and I think Daly said it. I think it if I have to scroll, yeah, he probably said it well before. And Daly, I apologize if I'm misquoting you, but it was, okay, character is what you do and how you act when no one is watching. So we get the quote from the Twitch account from his brothers, saying God is, a blessing and makes no mistakes, and this is what was meant to be. But he is pissed off and fired up that this didn't go in a way that we all anticipated it to go. And unfortunately, it's Shedeur left holding the bag, and it's Shedeur looking embarrassed. But my message to this young man would be, take every single input, take every single reference point, everything that people are saying about you, slandering your name, find a way to channel it towards making your career at the NFL level the best possible outcome it could be. And I promise you, this will ultimately be one of the worst mistakes for all the franchises that overlooked you because of reasons that were completely illegitimate. Number to get aboard is 888-710. That is 4ISN, 888-710-4476. Let's get to Paul in North Carolina. Paul, I appreciate your patience, man. How you doing? What you got for us, sir?
Hey, Shepard. Good morning, man. Hey, I'm in the restaurant business and I work crazy hours, so I appreciate a legit sports talk show overnight. So thank you for that.
That's my pleasure.
Hey, I'm as shocked as anybody about Shedeur still being here after round 3, but I want to share 3 quick observations with you about the NFL as to why I think we can explain where we are. If you go back and you look at the last Super Bowl champions, I just went back 12 years to 2013 with Joe Flacco.
Sure.
Every Super Bowl quarterback is a legit, bona fide leader and like unquestioned leader of the team. And I think if you give credence to the reports of these interviews that Shedeur Sanders has had, I think a lot of teams are questioning his leadership ability. And we go back to 2013, that's Joe Flacco, who, by the way, is still in the league. Fast forward, the teams we're talking about in this draft that could have drafted Sanders, the New York Giants, they failed with Daniel Jones. The Cleveland Browns, they failed with Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield.
Sure.
The Saints, the Raiders. Like I think there's a lot of teams that have failed recently, and when you put early assets into a draft and you fail, you set your franchise back 5 years. So if there's leadership questions, I think these teams that are up again because they failed before, they're gun shy. And my last observation is the fact that, like, my mind went blank. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, well, Paul, but I mean, I will say, like, there weren't any rumblings about the lack of leadership when it came to Shedeur Sanders. And the reality is when you're playing for Deion Sanders, whether it's your dad or whether it's your head coach, you don't need to exhibit all the leadership qualities because Deion Sanders is going to make up for it. He's going to compensate for it. So I don't remember these lack of leadership qualities coming up in terms of really discussing Colorado when it came to their quarterback. It's only coming up now because people want to use it as an excuse of why he wasn't drafted where he should have been drafted.
But if you look, Shep, coming into the draft, there was a lot of reports about interviews with teams that were not satisfied with how he was performing in his interviews, that he was kind of being the biggest man in the room. My last point was that, like, if teams are seeing him as a backup quarterback, and give me a second to explain, I'm going to put Shedeur Sanders in the same realm as Tim Tebow and Colin Kaepernick. Tebow and Kaepernick didn't get opportunities because they weren't good enough. They didn't get opportunities because teams don't want their backup quarterback to be noisy. And I think if these teams that are kind of, shying away from him because of questions of his leadership ability, that they don't want their backup quarterback to come in and make more noise than the starter. And I think it is a fair assessment to think that, hey, whether it's him or Deion, if he comes in and sits behind a starting quarterback that may not be performing the best, there's going to be a lot of noise, and teams don't want that noise.
That's fair, but I don't remember Colin Kaepernick ever finishing in the top 10 in terms of Heisman Trophy winners. I know Tim Tebow won a Heisman Trophy when he was a sophomore, but the difference is Tim Tebow did that as part of a really brilliant offensive system by Urban Meyer, and while he was brilliant and a great leader and a tremendous athlete, he didn't do it with his arm. Right, he did it with a lot of dink and dunks and quarterback draws, and he didn't do it as a pure passer. Shedeur was a top 10 finisher in the NFL, in college football as a passer, and yes, Colin Kaepernick had a lot of talent and he had a lot of strength in that arm. But when he couldn't get away with just being a great dual threat, it caught up to him. That's not Shedeur's game. So I hear what you're saying about the comparison in terms of being a backup quarterback, but the difference is we knew at some point both those guys were going to be backup quarterbacks, whereas Shedeur, we don't know if he's going to be a starter. We don't know if he can be a franchise quarterback. He was never given the opportunity. But, Paul, I appreciate the kind words, man, and you have a good rest of your morning and great call on your part.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. We know we got a lot of people still on the busy phone lines that want to weigh in on everything NFL Draft 2025. We will get to all your calls on the other side. Before we do anything else, let's get to our last sports flash of this particular Good Shepherd. Here is Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, Shep, the fall for Shedeur Sanders went to another level. 5 quarterbacks taken before Sanders as the Saints went with a quarterback at 40th overall. Louisville's Tyler Shuck. Jalen Milroe, 3rd round, pick number 92 to the Seahawks. Dylan Gabriel to the Browns at 94. Sanders did not get picked through the first 3 rounds of the tournament. Will now go from a possible 1st overall to a minimum of a 4th round selection. But Sanders keeping his head up while with his brother Shiloh on his Twitch.
We're here, we're in good spirits, of course. God don't make mistakes. We got faith in God no matter what. Whatever it is.
Checking the NBA playoffs, with the Bucks not wanting to fall into an 0-3 hole as they leaned on their superstar.
Giannis going the other way. Defended by Walker, who has not played until this moment of the game. Giannis drives right by and lays it in with a foul. The Greek Freak going to work, and the Bucks continuing to swell that lead.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, 37 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. Gary Trent Jr. at 37, connecting on 9 of 12 from deep as the Bucks ripped the Pacers 117-101, pulled to within 2-1 in the series. Call courtesy of the Bucks Radio Network. The rest of your score, T-Wolves handled the Lakers 116-104. 30 for Jaden McDaniels, 29 Anthony Edwards. LeBron James reported 38 in the loss, while Luka Doncic had just 17 as Minnesota now takes a 2-1 series lead. And Franz Wagner, 32, Paolo Banchero, 29. Magic able to hold off the Celtics, 95-93, pulled to within 2-1 in the series. Jason Tatum did play, led Boston with 36. Hockey, Edmonton lit the lamp 4 times in the third, bounced the Kings 7-4, pulled to within 2-1 in the series. Montreal doubled the Capitals 6-3, but still trailed that series 2-1. And the Devils outlast the Hurricanes 3-2 in double overtime on a Simone Nemec game winner. Carolina still leads that series, though, 2-1. Baseball, the Pirates blanked the Dodgers 3-zip. Paul Skeens struck out 9 over 6 1/3. Nationals walked it off with the Mets 5-4. Braves overpowered the D-backs 8-2. Rays down to Padres 1-0. Twins ripped the Angels 11-4. A's able to outlast the White Sox 6-5. Rangers shut out the Giants 2-zip. Marlins doubled the Mariners 8-4. Reds outscored the Rockies 8-7. Cardinals 3, Brewers 2. Royals blanked the Astros 2-0. Blue Jays rallied by the Yankees 4-2, and the Cubs shut out the Phillies 4-zip. I'm Marco Belletti.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Man, Chef, man, he like the smoothest dude in America, man. I like dude, man. Cool dude, man.
This is the Good Shepherd.
Welcome back, everybody. David Shepard on the Infinity Sports Network. Great to be with you, however and wherever you are listening from. I want to get to the phone calls right away because I know we are wrapping it up, and I want to make sure we get to as many people as possible talking about the 2025 NFL Draft. Andrew in Miami, you lead us off, my friend. How you doing? What you got for us?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Good. How are
long
you?
Time, first time calling, long time waiting. So, there's so many people already said everything that I don't know if I have anything left. But I'm gonna tell you the way I look at it from the very beginning. 1 + 1 makes 2. Both of them number 2. So I'm gonna say this: you got Deion Sanders, the Hall of Famer, okay, and his son, and if nobody understands. This is a combination of both of them. But Deion, with everything that he's done, and he's like a Hall of Famer, what team wants to deal with Deion Sanders and create a situation that things go wrong? I'm going to give you it's not a good example. The other day, not that long ago, you had LeBron James and Stephen A., right there in front of everybody. Yeah. That was embarrassing. To me, I don't like Stephen A. that much. I felt bad for him.
Yeah.
I love LeBron. And LeBron was wrong. This is Stephen A.'s job. And you did that. And the next day, Stephen A. looked like somebody that, I don't know, stole something in his house. That is so unfair, and I think people don't want to deal with that. I get what you say.
Yeah.
First of all, let me say you are very knowledgeable. You are smart, and that girl with you, working with you, she's so funny.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, man.
Stephen is great.
I'm going to say something. You know, in my opinion, people don't want to deal with that whole situation. I think he's going to get drafted. I think he's going to be sitting in a chair.
I do too.
And say,
I do too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And say, listen, I don't want your baggage. This is how you got to be, you know, and that's it. My opinion.
Yep.
I love your show.
Thanks, Andrew.
And I listen to you, and you know, like you, I hope he get drafted. He's a serious kid.
That's
and
a good
he's
kid.
a good person.
And Andrew, thank you very much for the call, man. Appreciate all the insight.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you, buddy. Good hearing from you. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. There's without question going to be a wake-up call when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, and I think even the father is going to address some of that behind closed doors as well. Let's get to Marshall in Milwaukee. Marshall, always good to hear from you, man. How you doing? What you got for us, sir?
Well, good morning, Shep, and thank you as always, and thank you to your other callers as well. It's been insightful as usual, and I think everything has been said about Shedeur Sanders. He'll get drafted. I agree with you that look out. I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong in this, and that's the key. You know, it's like many people have said. You know, it's getting there, but then staying there. And I think in the end, he will end up staying there, and he'll do well. I'm not saying he's going to be Hall of Fame or any of that, but he's going to make it, and he's going to make it with somebody. I think, frankly, the big surprise was when Cleveland didn't go for him. I really thought that's where he would go. And before I let you go, I know it's getting late here. I'm glad the Packers are getting a little bit of love, and I'll just say that we're excited about the two receivers particularly, and there's even talk up here that they may start potentially.
Wow!
And
you already got a good core of young receivers too.
Oh, I know. It's going to be fun to watch this later this summer and in the fall, of course. But I want to just make one comment about Jerry Kramer. I mean, the ageless wonder. I mean, the man is just 91 years old.
It's
and
amazing. Yeah.
The guy that made the great block for Bart Starr in the Ice Bowl. I mean, he's just incredible. And he's, you know, but when you live that long, you've seen so many of your friends go. But God bless that man. You know, he's got a great mind still at that age.
89 years young. Yeah, it's incredible what he's been able to do. You know, not just with his NFL career, but post NFL career. And it shouldn't have taken him that long to get into the Hall of Fame when he was in his 80s. Marshall, that's for sure.
He's still writing books on this stuff, and the stories he has about Lombardi. As I say, some people are meant to be around. Partly, somebody has to tell the stories and. You know, with my longevity and my family, maybe I'm one of those and budding despite my health of late. But tomorrow night, I'll call back. We'll talk Bucks. And I want to make a comment. We lost a broadcast legend whom I love dearly, Mike Patrick. I want to talk about him a little bit.
At 80 years young, I believe. Marshall, will certainly...
We ACC fans remember him very well, and I've got plenty of stories.
He was phenomenal. He was the voice of ESPN for, it seemed like, forever. I think 18 years more specifically with Sunday Night Football. But we'll definitely hit on that tomorrow. Marshall, always good to hear from you, brother. We'll talk soon, okay?
You bet. God bless.
Thanks. God bless you, Marshall. Let's get to Manny in Dallas. Manny, good morning, man. What you got for us, sir?
Well, first of all, love your show, first-time caller, and diehard Bear fan.
Yes.
But I got a team that can look over everything that's been going on, and Dion has ties with. They've got rid of their backup, Trey Lance. What do you think about the Dallas Cowboys making a splash with Shedeur?
Yeah, you gotta make it, Manny. You gotta do it. You're going nowhere with Dak. What's the worst that can happen? I mean, what, you go another decade plus without making an NFC Conference Championship game? So that's a great question. Obviously, you know the relationship that Dion has with Jerry. That's more than just football; it's family. So I'd love to see that move. I appreciate you being succinct with your phone call, man. You have a good rest of your morning, okay?
Okay, thank you. You too.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, man. Daryl in Houston, go ahead, my friend. Daryl going once.
Hello?
Hey, Daryl, go ahead.
Oh, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, you got 30 seconds. Go ahead, my friend.
Okay, quickly. The owners are the establishment here. And based on their intrinsic biases about how they feel about social issues and about culture they'll cut off their nose to spite their face. And that's the reason why we got to have things like DEI. What I'm talking about is diversity, equity, inclusion, because these owners that dictate the type of establishment that they want the public to actually have to view.
Sure.
Is typically
hey Daryl, do me a favor. This is a very heavy topic that you're broaching with literally 60 seconds left in the show. I can't do this topic justice right now that you're talking about. There's a lot of nuances. There's a lot of complexities to it. Call back tomorrow. I want to have this conversation more at length, okay?
Okay, we'll do.
Okay, thank you, Daryl. Listen, you're bringing up a valid point in terms of hiring practices in the NFL, but again, not nearly enough time. Matt, you got 20 seconds, man. I wanted to make sure we get to you. I know you've been waiting very patiently. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, what's up, my dude?
What's up, man?
Two things. Mel Kiper is the weatherman of sport.
Okay.
He gets paid $1 million to be wrong, but it is what it is. That's just my opinion.
Yep.
And watch out for my Jags, because I don't have enough time to go into my other talk, but watch out for my Jags.
We'll do. Matt, and call back tomorrow on that. I want to talk more about Travis Hunter as well. Folks, y'all have been great. Stephanie Schlago, great job on the ones and twos and producing. Up next, Carrington Harrison, do not go anywhere. This is Shep saying I love you all. Talk to you in 20 hours, everybody.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining.